popcorn's popping, we're ready to roll. Movies and games, they're good for the soul. In Post chat, we share and we laugh. Weekends alive, forget about the past. Lights down low, the screen's aglow. Talking movies we all know. Every joke and every game brings us closer all the same. Weekend Live, we're having a blast. Post movie chat where good times last. Laughing and playing every weekend night. Join us for the fun, everything's just right. Where's that box with the nice butt?
Good evening. Happy Weekend Live, everyone. I come to you as always as Charles, otherwise known as CPO. We may not be talking about movies so much, despite that beautiful, and I do mean beautiful, opening sequence. This is funded by Jacob, and this is a members-only chat. So you're able to watch, and thank you for being here. But members will be the ones able to chat. This idea was kind of put through from Jacob, and I called on my closest big time stand-up comedy friend to help with this bizarre, very egotistical project. And that is Gray Poupée. Gray, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Hey, I'm
Hi.
great. That's okay. I'm just a little put back by you saying that like I'm your biggest stand-up comedy fan thing.
It could be Cody,
I mean,
but you're more
I was gonna
defensive
say,
of
like,
it.
how do you ever like discount Cody? Like he's big time. I'm the one.
He's just big time. He's not a big time fan.
Fair enough.
Nobody tell him. Don't tell him to come here. Yeah, if we were talking movies, maybe I wouldn't be speaking so fondly of you, but I've never heard anyone speak of like old stand-up, new stand-up, obscure stand-up the way you do. And yeah, my card is invalid in your presence. So
Well, that's very humbling. Except for the whole movie take. I get it. You don't like Joker 2. I do. Whatever. Fair enough. Fair enough.
indeed.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's a huge compliment.
Evening,
Hey,
Adam.
hey,
Oh, well, I
for
mean
sure.
it, and I trust you, and I will give you the keys to the kingdom here. And
Oh
for
no.
those of you in the audience, Gray will be driving the ship here. This is an interview, I guess. It's a bit of a chat. Hopefully, this is lax, but we're going to be talking to me about stand up.
We're excited to talk to we.
Run amok,
Um,
Gray.
well, yeah, man. Yeah. So as I kind of understand, you got kind of a request to go through kind of your history with comedy, if you will, and specifically kind of the early years, and that sounds kind of interesting. To me, that really seems like I don't know, a meaty subject, if you will. There has to be a lot going on in that those kind of early days. The amazing time, the come up, if you will. So yeah. I guess where I'd get this started as I steer us into a ditch is what it
It's my career.
what
It's already down there.
hey, it's Cody.
Oh,
On time.
shit.
Yeah.
He's here. Nobody. I didn't say anything about you, Cody. You joined at the right time.
Well, okay. What is the role that comedy plays in your world, sir?
Oh, it's quite important. Um, to kind of take it down for a second, I've experienced quite a bit of trauma in my life, a lot of bullshit, depression, PTSD, all of that stuff. And the one thing that has kind of been the thing that has I don't wanna say been there, but something I've used to, like, blow steam off has been comedy, whether it was old George Carlin, whatever. It was stand-up for some reason, and it was always on the TV. I don't know if it was because my mom was watching at the time or I was sneaking it, but she was watching it, and at a certain point, I was like, "I kinda dig this," and, there was times where I was punished, and I could only hear the television, and she was watching stand-up, so it's a bit of
Yeah,
a
I mean,
bonus.
it kinda still works. It's kinda like getting one of their albums. Well, along those, lines, do you remember what your first exposure to comedy was?
Hmm. It it might be something along the lines of, like, an old Dangerfield, um, like a I forgot what they were calling it on HBO. I know my mom and her brothers would watch, like, the stand-up specials, and,
Mhm.
they would have, like, a handful of comedians, and Dangerfield always seemed to host them. If it
Yeah, it
wasn't
was like the Dangerfield Presents one.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
Google it really quick, but yeah, I know the ones that you're talking about.
Kinnison made, like, a big deal. If not that, it was, like, Comic Strip Live, which was on A&E. Oh, no, A&E Evening at the Improv. I'm telling you, like, there are things from the late '80s, early '90s that my mom watched a lot of stand-up stuff. There was this awful show on Comedy Central, Make Me Laugh, where somebody would sit in a chair and you had to they had, like, 5 comedians and you had to make them laugh within a minute, which
Oh, I love that.
it sounds like torture to me.
It is, but it's like, yeah, you get to see a lot of physical comedy 'cause it's like,
Yeah,
"I don't know, let me fall down,
yeah.
let me"
To
fair
hell with
enough.
setup, I have 60 seconds.
Well, I mean, it's kinda like an open mic. If you have, like, a good 60-second thing, like, I
Mm.
guess do it, but,
If you have a
I
good
don't
60
know.
seconds, you're not doing an open mic.
There's variations on that type of theme too, like, I'm getting sidetracked. This isn't about that, it's about you, sir. Fair enough. That's kinda awesome. So, do you think your kind of relationship with comedy has changed over the years, or was it always kinda that big part of your world?
Um, it was until I was responsible for doing it. Well, like, it 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 was kinda like, seeing the sausage get made kinda deal when you're doing it nightly and, you're hearing the same guy you're touring with, their bit for the 3rd time on the 2nd show on a Saturday, you're like, "Ugh, I didn't like it the 1st time, I certainly don't like it the 3rd time." Um,
Well, it keeps
which
getting better.
which I'm certainly that guy to somebody else, that's for sure. But when my father passed, uh, everything I had inside to, like, be funny, it just wasn't hitting the same way, and it was a bit more laborious than I would have considered it, and just something happened where, the will to take the stage and make other people laugh, which before that incident, I would have said making other people laugh will make me feel better. But
Mhm.
at that point, when my father died, I internally, I was like, I need to feel good enough to go on stage and never mind making them laugh. I need to like, I don't feel right now, and there's a bunch of different things that people try to get me going, like, "Oh, joke about it," and I didn't know where my footing was. I didn't know how I felt about it, let alone how to make it funny, let alone give a shit if people thought it was funny to, like, do the work. So, at that point, that very personal, very,
Think
uh
of the bit. You could have such a good bit about it.
get a
Yeah,
tight
that's kind of
tan
a
on
shitty
suicide.
response to somebody going through, like, a really traumatic event.
Yeah,
I guess it's kinda the silver lining, but damn. Yeah, that
yeah.
would be tough, man,
So
especially if that's the response you're getting.
I
Like
don't know what comedy means to me anymore. Like, I've gotten very bitter about it recently.
mhm,
Um, I think I'm just getting bitter about a lot of things where unqualified people are doing things and just, not putting in the work. Like, I forgot what the terminology was, but, like, I was told by these people, "You have to, pay your dues and climb the ladder," and it seems like there are certain aspects of entertainment where if you have a certain amount of popularity, You could fail at the top, and people would just show up because, oh, I know him from that McDonald's commercial. I'm going to see him do music because that correlates. Um, so I don't know. I think there's something with all these YouTube commercials. Excuse me, YouTube videos, and they're all holding microphones. And I privately think that every content creator that does the microphone thing secretly wants to be a stand-up, because I can't explain why people are holding a microphone in video production. But
It makes sense. Like every musician wants to be a stand-up.
see,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are envious of that.
let me turn it around on you for a second, because I've heard this quite a few times where there's been a respect from musicians about comedians, and I don't think, like, I don't know if you're just blowing smoke or you're not
No,
giving
man.
yourself the right amount of respect, because, dude, if you forget a song,
Who
if you
can't like pick up a guitar and like kind of entertain that way? Like you can hide behind the guitar and you can practice your ass off, but like just one man, one mic actually like owning the room. Like that's crazy. Like that is something that everyone envies, everyone wishes they could do. It's a very specific skill set
but
where I think anyone can do karaoke, you know, like you still kind of watch the people who are good at it. Like it's a little different.
no, I would argue the opposite. I feel like you, if a room isn't completely full, unless you're killing, and you'll know it in both scenarios. In comedy, if you're dying, you know the room is quiet. If the room is like
For
half
sure.
full, you're not sure just how well you're doing, because the sound isn't there to begin with. So, as a musician, you have the music that's just kind of drowning everything out. You don't, I mean, again, short of just nailing it, having a great show, you don't know if you're doing okay or horrible. And to keep going through with that is like it's almost like driving blind. Like I have way too much respect for that, to just be like, oh yeah. I mean,
Kinda. I mean,
as
that's
a
like
comedian, this room's quiet. This is terrible.
so I agree with all of that, and I agree with you. Like I've been in comedy rooms when somebody is bombed, like you
Mm.
know right away in that, like it is a feeling that you get. Where with music, like it is harder to tell, but you still do kind of tell. But I view it more akin to like an improv troupe or like a sketch troupe where you've got these other people, they have their parts, you're relying on them. Like this is something that you've practiced. There's something going on there. So you're just gonna keep going through, you know, like you continue the performance where I don't know, if you just do that as a stand-up, like you can tell, you know, the seasoned people from the people who are like actually acknowledging what's happening like in the moment. Like okay, this is as opposed to like pretending that the crowd is responding to them and calling back or whatever, or giving them the response that they're looking for. I don't know. It's hard to kind of fake that with music, and then sometimes it's ironic anyway, where it's like, yeah, I know the hordes of fans when there's like nobody there.
But, like,
Um,
that's baked in. As a comedian,
yeah.
you could screw up and be like, "Oh, really chewed myself up on that one," where, like, they're there to laugh.
Mm.
W Meanwhile, music, if you screw up, what do you do? Do you start the song over? Do you keep going? Do you address it and be like, "Derp, fuck that one up?" Like, they're not there
I
to laugh,
mean,
they're there to have a good time, so there's a bit more of a challenge as a musical performer. No?
it kind of depends.
I mean,
Like,
if you're perfect, you're perfect. That's it,
s-
but
so I knew a bunch of bands that had kind of a bit where it's like, you know, if they like mess up right at the beginning, then it's like they would kind of do this bit and then like start it over again. So like you kind of get little like shortcuts like that. But other than that, if you're doing originals, oftentimes people don't know when you mess up because, you know, if you're just starting out, like this is the first time they've heard the song. So you just
Mhm.
pretend you didn't, just go through. Or you get real jazzy with it and just emphasize that mistake and just keep going with it. But yeah, I don't know. There's ways to get through it, but you've got everybody else with you. It's not just like you hitting that like really awkward time and then being able to somehow pull yourself out of this giant hole that you dug.
Well,
I don't know. That's where I have the huge respect for you.
fair enough. I think it's far closer than one respecting one more than the other, because I think they're different beasts altogether, and there's I credit anyone who does either of them, because getting in front of a crowd is, oh, they're relentless.
Or if they're awesome, you know, man, it's
Uh,
there's nothing like it.
there's a reason that
But
people keep doing it. It's better than sex, I would argue. If you're
Well,
shooting for something from a room full of people and you get it, not much tops that.
there's not another feeling quite like it.
Right.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Well, I feel like we got kind of turned around. We kind of heard the latter part of the career and kind of your idea now. Nobody's family understands their comedy, do they? Well, let me ask you. Um, how did your family respond, or people around you when you first came up with the notion of I want to be a comedian? Did
Oh,
you like outright tell them, or did you start doing it and then slowly let people know? How did you approach it?
I'm not the first person in my family to do stand-up. My
Nice.
my mother's brother did it, and, he did, like, this contest thing where they were just like it was a glorified open mic, but it had, like, a prize, and he won, and,
That's
um,
awesome, man.
and never did it again, and I was just like, "How do you how do you just leave it all out there like that?" Like, nailed it.
Undefeated champ.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get it. I respect it in a way, you know.
My mother's brothers were very, very, very funny. 2 of them are musicians, 2 of them are comedians, uh, and this guy who, like, he was the first out of all of my relatives to do it and nailed it and really did a great job, but didn't like the feeling up there. And in the back of my head, I'm like, how do you kill an audience and say, "This isn't good?" Like, I don't wanna
It
do
must have been
this.
some good material. Well, I mean, I guess a lot of it is the delivery, but
Mm,
still, like, if you're hating it, but you're just killing at it, I don't know, man.
yeah,
I've never experienced that.
and that I'm sure you have. Uh, that planted a seed because, at every, like, family get together, he would especially after this too, he would have a lot of relatives just gathered around the table, and he would just make stupid things, that have happened at the dinner table on Thanksgiving, and he had a solid set for, the audience he was playing for, and knowing that in the back of my head, and again, always having stand-up on at some point, whether it be whether I'm punished or actually watching it myself, comedy was something that I would watch, like, George Carlin bits while my friends were going to Back to the Future movies, and I was just like, kid shit.
That's
Um,
I mean, that's kinda awesome. Both they're learning from kind of an older, inspiration. It makes sense. It's
yeah.
kinda similar.
And due to all of that, like, being the youngest, because my mom is not much older than me, and her brothers are all younger than her, so I just had, like, older brothers disguised as uncles, and I got a bit more refined of a sarcastic look at things, and I was ve if I didn't know what it meant, I could understand that it was a joke, the way they were doing it, so it was like this, I don't know, some sort of exotic training, and knowing how they were doing with just the family and knowing that he did well, won a contest and didn't wanna keep going, I was like, "Okay, so this is a bar I can judge certain things on. I need to just privately resemble this, and I could judge, as far as relatively speaking is concerned, where I am if I had end up doing this." But it was always, my uncles who were quite funny and quite charismatic. Again, 2 of them are musicians. Um, so, like, it it was in my blood, so at some point, I knew I'd like to try it,
That's
because
awesome.
it's I don't know.
Can I ask you about that? So, you wanted to try it and you'd seen other people do it. I know you have the story about getting the Kennison album because he had the one song on it. And
Yeah.
you mentioned always like hearing a bunch of Carlin. Uh, how did you approach writing like your first joke? Like, how does one just
Oh.
write jokes?
Oh, yeah, I would, if there were such a thing as a cover band in comedy, I was doing my best to be a George Carlin cover band, with, like, hints of Eddie Murphy and hints of Kinnison, and, like, I caught on to Bill Hicks after he died. So, like, the late '90s was when I was really starting to kick into it. Um, and again, I don't think I could have legally gone to see any of them in a club because, yeah, teenager. Um, but, like, I knew that was what I liked, and, I felt like it was more real than, like, my mom liked Kevin Meaney at times, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure you're familiar with Kevin Meaney.
I am.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a name I haven't heard for a minute, but, yes, I do remember me some Meanie.
yeah,
He got a few TV gigs for a bit.
yep. I actually saw him at a club once. I was not there working. I was there to see a show before I started doing stand up, and I was kind of bummed out because whatever set he was doing at the club was something that I had seen him do like years earlier on like Evening
Mhm.
at the Improv or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, that's unfortunate."
And
So,
that's another way that, like, you have an easy way out as a musician. Like, people wanna hear that one song, but, like, I don't know if people wanna hear you do the entire album that they've heard. Although there is the whole dice phenomenon where,
I yeah, and
like those nursery rhymes, that's
Brian
what
Regan, I've
people
seen
wanna
the inverse too, where people like, "Do this bit," and it's just like, "What? I know this bit. I'd like to hear something new." It is weird.
where you're kinda let down at a concert if you go to, like, your favorite band, but they're only playing the new stuff. Like, you wanna know some of the
Mm,
hits. You want them to play some of those classics
have
where
the Stones even made an album in the last 30 years?
I don't think so. Good question. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, they wanna hear the hits. I don't know if they want to or if they get that feeling like you were mentioning. Like, that should be his hits, right? It was his Evening at the Improv or whatever set,
Yeah.
so
The That's Not Right. He had a bit of a thing. I don't wanna call it hacky, but he had a running gag where I think it was like he joked and did like his mother's voice, like I don't have it completely remembered, but I remember him being, "That's not right. That's not right." And, that's all I remember. I I I I was okay with it. I wouldn't say I was a fan of it.
well, I mean, people were, you know? He had a decent
Oh,
career.
sure, sure. More people
Uh,
like and know him than they do me, that's for sure.
so you were mentioning the, coming like a cover band, you were just kinda doing other people's
Oh,
hits.
yeah, yeah, like,
Do you remember Oh, sorry, go right ahead, sir.
no,
I don't mean to interrupt you.
specifically, "What Am I Doing in New Jersey" by George Carlin. His I don't remember. I might have inherited that or got it myself because, like I told you, my mother bought me Sam Kinison's "Have You Heard From Me Lately" or "Have You Seen Me Lately" because it had the song "Wild Thing" on there. She didn't, like, check at all, um, and there's a ton of raunchy comedy on there, and I think it was, like, Christmas, the night that she gave it to me, and she played it in the car, and she's just kinda looking at me like, "What the where's the music?" But, it's too late. She already gave it to me, and you can't tell a kid, they can't have something after you give it to them because 'cause they're only gonna want it more. But in that same vein, I think I was like, "Ma, this is George Carlin, the guy that you liked," because she liked, like, his older stuff,
Mhm.
A Place to Put My Stuff, like Carnegie, those old ones, and like, that was the middle ground, the What Am I Doing in New Jersey, like, old '80s Carlin and kind of a bridge to the '90s Carlin when I thought he was his best, um, and he has this, like, 25-minute bit on people on the road and stupid things that people do on the road, and I was like, "This, I need this." It's Seinfeld with an edge. It's observational humor, but, with a sarcastic tinge to it, and, that specifically was what I was trying to emulate, the observational humor that people can see and don't know that it makes them laugh until a moron like me says, "Look at how stupid this is."
Were you so you were saying like a cover band,
Yeah.
so were you trying to be like it, or were you kinda, like, dissecting his jokes and just, like, switching it up a little bit? Or
Oh, I
in which ways were you doing the cover?
I'm sure the delivery, the
Mm,
not joke,
that would be
not the
tough, man. Like,
yeah,
everybody kinda apes somebody's delivery at
sure,
some
sure.
point. Ugh.
The not a joke punchline, it was, "Here's a sentence, a thing," and then a weird comment, and then the punchline is the, like, question, like, it I can't get you exact if you listen to Carlin's, What Am I Doing in New Jersey, his thing on, like, cars, uh, and you hear a lot of my material, especially, like, my road signs bit, that is That is me being a bootleg George Carlin cover band. The road signs, be prepared to stop. It's not really structured like a joke. It's not a story. I mean, everybody in comedy tells you, tell people a story, let them know about you, what makes you special, and stuff like that. It's just like, hey, you know this thing? Why?
So, that's interesting. Do you remember the first time that like a joke really landed with an audience? Was it off of that cover stuff, or did you have to get deeper?
Mm, it was quite hacky. Um, I had a bit, and I'm sure it's a lot easier now, but a couple of decades ago, being a comedian with music, with a thing to queue up, is fucking annoying. And
But it's
I
something that everyone was doing, so it's kind of
yeah
expected.
yeah
I'm assuming this would have been like early to mid '90s ish.
uh, early 2000s, late 90s. Oh, actually, probably
Oh,
early
my
2000s.
early
I'm not that
2000s.
old.
Okay, okay.
So the
Well,
thing,
fair enough. I'm just trying to think like every comedian that I knew had a bit like that, and it seems like it started around like the mid '90s. And
yeah. Uh, Odenkirk quite famously had a bunch of stereo gimmicks. Um, the thing that I was doing was the questions on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is stupid, and the only reason people are, like, captivated is the music, and I would get the "do-do-do-do-do-do," that song, and just the question was, "What is the color of an orange?" And just milk it, and people were rolling, and, looking back at 'em, like, "You fucking hack. Terrible." But they were
doesn't that
rolling,
prove
so
your premise? Like, it was just the music? If they're rolling from it, I don't
Indeed.
know, that kinda seems to work.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. I hate shortcuts, even though I was using it pretty hard at the time.
Well, did that give you a taste of, like, what you I don't know, did that get that inspiration burning under you unlike it did to
Oh,
kinda your
yeah.
uncle? Because I mean,
Oh,
he won
yeah.
a contest. I'm sure he had the audience rolling, like, did you seem to get that, I don't know what you'd call it, like, that inexplicable high from it? I don't know.
Oh, it wasn't from something like that. That was a thing where, like, if I needed to go for a laugh, that was, "Okay, play the song 'cause I need to feel better about myself." But, something that I really didn't like as a kid growing up was this whole "our children are important," this generalization that kids need to be catered to, and the world needs to have, you know, training wheels for all of them, and I was experiencing things that just were not what I was hearing about in school. I had to grow up very fast, and, something that I enjoyed or appreciated, not enjoyed, was when somebody told me what was up right away and didn't lie to me because I was a kid. Um, and that's always been the case. It's something I quite enjoy about you, Gray, is the fact that you're very, you'll say if you disagree right away without any sort of concern for hurting someone's
That's
feelings
not
because
true. Sorry, I couldn't
exactly.
resist.
Exactly. Um, but my first 3 shows, ever, another thing I like about New York crowds, my first show was tiny, Lisa Lampanelli emceed it. A bunch of my
Doesn't
friends,
sound tiny though. Like, I'm sorry, like,
uh,
she's been if this is early 2000s, she was a thing since then, so
it
it's
was
like
before
she's
she was
still
a thing. It was certainly before she
really?
was a thing, yeah. Um,
Okay. I thought
so,
she was always a thing.
like 10 of my friends were there, so it wasn't really laughing at my material so much as it was support.
Hmm.
I then did a show. The club owner asked me to come back, and I thought, "Ooh, I'm actually quite a funny person," but it was because I had 10 audience members that paid. Um,
Were they bringer shows? Like,
yeah,
did you have to bring
yeah,
it in? So that sucks too. As musicians, we also had those. Did they have like a certain minimum that you had to bring in,
it was
or
3.
was it just
It was 3 people.
okay? So I think we had a minimum of like it was either 10 or 15, which
Oh,
is like it feels like that's totally doable though, like to fill in a rock show. It was so tough. Like
yeah,
those first few ones, just man, it is impossible. And then asking the same people to come and watch like these early really bad gigs is
right.
that
Right.
sucks, especially if they have to pay for it and then buy a drink or whatever as well.
Yeah, like, you wanna get better. It's not like I'm popular, let's I don't know. I don't know what the comparison is to today's internet, but, um, if you wanna look cool, I guess that's one thing. If you're popular, that's another thing, but some people are actually trying to get better, and, you know, I'd like to make other people laugh, not prove to you that I have a bunch of friends and help you, uh, make your money. Um, but it's unfortunate when they like, you're learning, and to ask your friends always, "Hey, can you I need extra people, can you show up?" I mean, there are times where I just wanted to work on my material in front of an audience that I didn't bring and wasn't just a room full of other comedians. There was a couple of times where I was like, "Can I just pay you for whoever I can bring instead and just, like, do that?" "Oh, no, you gotta buy the drinks too." "What if I buy the drinks too?" Like, it was quite frustrating, but,
Well, and it's weird because like comedy is like that. Like it's just not the same. You can't just practice in front of the mirror and know how it's going to go over in any room. Like any given room can
right.
take the same joke so much differently. It's like writing those waves, which is just I think it's very unlike music. Like yes, you can have like a dead room where nobody's interested, but you know if you rocked it or not. Like
Oh, yeah.
as a comedian, it's like if you just it's wrong if you're just playing as if it's to like a crowded arena and everyone's just loving it, or in reality, there's like three people in front of you and they're indifferent. It's gonna come off so weird and just not right or in the moment if you play that where it's kind of expected that way if you're doing music. So like that's the other huge difference. Like you have to be in that moment and kind of address it in a way where I don't think you have to do that with music. You've practiced so much and you can do it not in front of people, but man, for that comedy, like so maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but do you think there's any way that you could have gotten that experience from just like being in front of a mirror or just being in front of a couple people telling jokes as opposed to like actually getting up on that stage?
No, and that's where I think social media and, YouTubers, TikTokers really have a disadvantage because, yeah, you can get clicks and people commenting that your shit is awesome. 'Cause you're just, speaking to a phone in an empty room. Doing it in front of a crowd and timing everything, th it you could be great at it, but there's still a science to it because what worked in the same room for the next show, that audience is different, and it would be completely different, and, there's been a ton of times where I'm like, "It's the same room, I could still smell the people before. Why is this not working?"
Well, then that's the other like kind of crazy thing. Like I don't know of any venue where they have you play like two different rock shows like a night or two different whatever. You generally don't have that. Like I guess if you're playing in a restaurant or something, they might have you come out and do a couple of sets, but man, like there isn't that turnover of the entire room and then we're doing a whole nother show now. And hey, there might even be an even later show if this holds out.
I guess that is a
That's just not a
distinctly stand-up
thing.
comedy thing. Late
I
show
I
on
mean, like,
Friday.
I've played another gig the same night where it's like we left one and then, like,
Yeah.
went to a completely other venue, but there's nothing like that room turnover. Like, that is just crazy. I couldn't imagine it's like, "Okay, be on," and then, "Yeah, you're gonna be off for, like, 30 minutes," and then really be on again. Like, I don't know, man. That's kinda crazy to me. I don't know if, I don't know if I could do that.
You get
Is
used
it
to it
something that,
though.
like, you'd have to turn on and turn off, or what would you do in
Sometimes.
between gigs if you're doing, like,
Oh,
the 2 in one night or whatever?
you don't have much time to do anything. I wouldn't leave the club because I don't know. I just always I was a bit of a I don't know, a nerd about comedy when I was there. Like, I just wanted to maintain the energy of the room, even if it was bad, and that's bad. Like, to just sit in your misery, just like, "Yeah, this next show is gonna suck." Um, it's not the greatest thing, but I was such like a stand for stand-up comedy, just like I felt like, I was in the VIP section so many different times where, like, just seeing people just done with it. I just wanted to understand, "All right, well, why does this suck? Why are you leaving and going and eating?" And, I would just stay there, especially for a 2 show night. Um, but it doesn't help if you're having a if you had a bad first show, just sitting in that room empty is not gonna help anything. You gotta it just took years for me to figure out, you gotta go take a breather or something. A lot of people that I did stand up with along the way, or took me under their wing. Mark Cooper, who was, a comedian from upstate New York and a radio show host, he, he got to work with me quite a bit on a regular basis, and this was, a year or 2 into me get having something of a regular gig, but I always had a note that I would, like, leave my, y you know, topics, and I would just leave it on the floor, and he says, "What do you do if you don't have that note?" I'm like, "I don't know." So he's smoking, and he just takes it and sets it on fire, and I was like, "That's my set list." And he goes, "You're learning the hard way tonight." It sucked
Kinda
for
like
me.
like pushing him in to swim,
Right,
like, "Come on, like,
right.
you've trained for this. Go."
Yeah,
Uh,
and he
how did
was
it go?
I don't remember, I just remember his talk saying, "There's 25 people, you're in fucking Poughkeepsie, no one's gonna remember this tomorrow," and I was like, "Alright." Right on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I think I sidetracked you away from, those first couple where I
Oh,
asked if it was the, bringer shows, but you're mentioning your first couple, you brought in a few people, and I think you were gonna talk about your 3rd one, and then for some reason, I just really sidetracked us.
right. So the first show was a bunch of friends. I don't know, it was support more than it was entertainment. The second show, um, it was a showcase, and I was up 3.5 hours into the set because I didn't have 10 people coming to see me, so they were like, "Oh, the magic's gone." Um, and, it was a combination of things that, uh, I didn't have many people there. They had a bunch of people just coming through to work on their stuff, and, I've been waiting for 3.5 hours, and, like, I had a slap in the face of, like, "Oh, so this is comedy, huh? This is shitty starting at the bottom." And, I tried doing something similar to the first bit I did, and people were walking out on me, and it
Oh,
was
man.
it was a brutal slap in the face. I literally somebody got up right in front of me, in front of the spotlight, and I was I was like, "Fuck you," and I didn't really mean it at that person, it was just like, "Come on, man, I waited for 3.5 hours, you wait 2 minutes." And, yeah, it was bad. It was bad. People leaving, I cursed someone out, and, it sucked. And it 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 was something that I woke up the next morning, I was like, "Okay, if that's pretty bad, I can probably handle that." Uh, and the next show, same room, I got a standing ovation, and I was like, "What the
Was
fuck?"
it different material? Was it the same material?
It was the
Had you been
same
honing it?
material. It was the same material, other than me saying "fuck you" to someone. Um,
Well, I mean, that just adds to it. It's part of the ambiance. Like I said, you're addressing the crowd as it is. Um, I that's interesting. So, what do you think the big difference was? Was it you? Was it, like, the energy you were bringing to it,
could have
or was it the crowd? Like, because I guess that crowd, like you mentioned, you were waiting 3.5 hours before you went on, so
Yeah,
these guys had either been listening to, kinda early comedy for a while, or it's a late
yeah.
night crowd by that point, at least.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was after midnight on, like, a 9 PM show where it's just like, "Can we just leave?" Um, I don't know the variables of what made what different, um, but it was such a like, the first show, I just you get it out of your system, that's more that than anything, but the second show to realize just how shitty it is, that's a good thing to have right away, and then the very next show having it work, and basically, I had the same material short of, like, a comment or 2 being like, "Okay, these 2 similar bits had very drastically different responses. Okay, I've lived it. I can sort of get ready for that, and that was the best kind of on the job training that I had. And again, the sober like slap in the face, people walking out and just standing up directly in front of me was just, all right, this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. Um, and again, it's something that some people would say it's too harsh. I would rather you be honest with me and just this sucks. I'm not into it. All right, cool. I'll try to work on it. I mean, I'm not there to have my ego stroked. I mean, I am, but I'm going to
Well, I
work.
mean, kinda.
Well,
Like,
right,
it is a big look at me thing, so in a way.
sure, but I also want to feel like I've earned it. Like, okay,
Hmm.
um, I worked on this. This is for you guys to enjoy. And if they don't, it's like, all right, what I do wrong? Or if they do, it's like, all right, thank you. Now I'm gonna revel in this.
Well, there is a comment, the most recent one from Jonah Fremholt, which looks like a new member to your channel.
Oh,
But
right
he's
on,
saying that
John.
he performed a open mic and told an extremely vulgar story. Somebody walked out on him. Was he wrong to be proud of himself?
No.
Were you proud that you walked the guy and told him "fuck you"? It sounds like he's following in your footsteps, which seems like pretty good ones. You got an ovation the next time.
Yeah, I don't think it was the same guy.
You
Um,
never know. He might be the same guy, just standing up in front of the spotlight.
my biggest fan. I've been with this guy since show 2. I walked in. Um, no, because if that's what you're like, what you're trying to do, you're building some sort of repertoire. Like, another thing that I was very stupidly cocky about was I listening to things like Dice and Kinnison. Um, I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna be this fuck you guy and just be, like, rough around the edges," but you that takes years to get there, and like, I thought my big badass opening was gonna be, "You know what sucks about having a big dick?" And, like, people
That
don't
didn't go
know.
over well?
No, people just it's like if I was, like, 10 years into my career and people recognized me from something and knew that, like, I was being stupid, that's one thing, but, like, just slapping people in the face with that, like, after they just watched some church choir, just just didn't work. I mean, I
I
would
mean, it sounds kind of funny.
it like, I worked on it a little bit. I was like, "Alright, so that's maybe a little too hard," and I I added a tag to it where people would look at me like, "What the fuck?" It was just a way to kill people right off the bat and kill in a bad way. And I was like, "No, no, I'm asking." And that was, like, the last time I was like, "Alright, this just doesn't work." So, like, the being an edgy R-rated guy wasn't as much as I thought it was cool. There's some work behind that. You don't just show up and say curses. But, yeah, I mean,
Well,
if you walk them and, like, that's what you're trying to do, I mean, uh,
I mean,
I think I've said
sometimes you gotta
this
separate the wheat from the chaff, you
right?
know? Do the
I
Zack Snyder approach.
I think I said this to you on your channel. There are jokes that I would this takes a while of being comfortable in myself, knowing what I'm comfortable with throwing out there and what not. There'd be jokes where I would throw something out there and know that I'm not getting 100% laugh. It was the quiet snickers, I really shouldn't be laughing at this, that noise that I really took pride in, where I was like, "Ooh, you can't contain yourself."
Yeah, you want to hate this.
Yeah.
I okay, I really enjoy that. So, I guess let me ask you that question then. So what is the goal behind your writing a joke? Is it to get a laugh? Is it to get that kinda snicker thing? And,
Oh,
when is it successful? If you just get one of those in the crowd, is it a successful joke, or does it need some workshopping if you're only getting one?
uh, a lot of comedies averages, like, if you hit on a joke maybe 5 times out of 10, you're awesome. Um, it's just figuring out, like, yeah, you gotta do a little bit of math and a little bit of homework. Why didn't this work? Did this work? And, uh, what part of the country am I in? What, it there are a bunch of different things that if you really look into it, you can kind of figure out, like, where things are going. As far as, jokes that people are not supposed to laugh at. It's something like that, the "Do you know what sucks about having a big dick?" Realizing that, okay, off the bat, people are really that's really abrasive to people that don't know who the fuck you are. Um, but kind of, if you take it and put it somewhere in the middle where they've had a couple minutes to understand who you are and what your deal is. It's a
That's the
little
sweet
different.
spot for the big dick joke. Middle of this.
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
I I think, when they realize that you're like, it sucks. I hate saying this, but it's more and more prevalent. They have to realize you're kidding, and you would think that the venue would dictate that you are doing just that, but that is not the case. Um, and when they
Sadly,
realize
it is not.
yeah, when they realize, "Oh, this guy's out there," uh, like, one of my bits that, like, it wasn't really a bit, it was just me just being edgy to recalculate my brain and figure out where I was going. If I was done with a bit that wasn't working, I would just throw out a question and say, "Are there any Siamese twins in the audience?" And it's just the visual, like, "Wait, Siamese twins," you would know. Like, the thing is you would know if someone's in the audience. And I wasn't expecting a response. God knows it never happened, so if there was a pair of Siamese twins in the audience, I don't know what the hell I would do. But, it was that, like, slow roll of laughter, like someone just trying to keep themselves from making noise, but, losing it, and then a couple of people laughing at that guy. That is fun to me. But I wouldn't want to base I mean, there are comedians that like Andy Kaufman was like the
Mhm.
the inverse of stand-up. He wanted to gross people out and have them offended. Um, I wouldn't wanna base all of my material on that, but having that every now and again, like you don't want to laugh, but I just made you laugh, like that's kind of fun and powerful.
That is. I always love those type of comedians. That's awesome. Uh, okay. Did you have any self-doubt or like nerves when you started? And if so, how do you kind of get over that to get up on the stage? Or were you just confident, man? Like you mentioned, you got the big dick joke, so maybe you were just like whipping it out.
Doing a thing as a teenager is both foolish and, I don't know, uh, there's I hold on. Sorry.
Greetings in Norway.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
greetings.
thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Um, shit, I forgot where I was going. What would you say? I apologize. I lost my
That's a
everything.
good question. Now I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, nerves like self-doubt, something like that. Like
Oh,
apparently you were a teen, so you were all
yeah,
cocksured and whatever you want to call
yeah,
that, big-headed.
yes, in every sense of the word. Just a lot of energy flowing through me. Um, I do remember making people laugh was like the thing that I enjoyed, and a lot of it was something that I found better than any sort of orgasm. Working at the movie theater, when I, like, really started getting the itch, at a sold out show, I would, like, tell friends at my job, like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go do 5 minutes in front of the American Pie crowd," and it's just
How did that go over?
oh,
I
I
mean,
didn't
they're
do it.
looking for a laugh.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, like, this is a comedy crowd,
right,
it's back when there were big comedies, so
and the
maybe that
thing
would
was, it was
work.
a full house, and I was like, "Ooh,
Mm.
I didn't have to pay any of these people to be here. They wanna be here. It's a full room. I don't have to go to the city to do this." But, you know, the theater was giving me actual money, so I I couldn't endanger
Yeah,
my gas
that
money
might
for
infringe.
that.
Well, fair enough. Okay, so that's kinda interesting. Uh, alright, so we kinda talked about a couple of the first bringer shows or whatever. What's the first time you got paid for comedy? Because a lot of those bringer shows, like maybe you get some drink tickets or something. Maybe it's different in comedy, but basically we had to pay like I think it was like $250 no matter what. And once that much got in, however, in tickets or drinks, we're good. We'd actually make something off of that, but we
Oh,
never did that in the beginning. What about you, man? When was the
so
first time you actually got paid for a gig?
it remind me to circle back to that because that's interesting. Um, the first time I got paid was a similar story. I actually needed to leave the city to get paid. I got paid in
Hey, you're a
upstate New
road
York.
comic at that point. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Essentially, that's it. It was in upstate New York, in the Poughkeepsie area, um, and I had won a contest for a local radio station. And at that point, if there was a room that was doing stand up, I was if it was within 20 miles, I was going. And the the first prize was a paying gig, a guest spot on at a comedy club that had unnoteworthy comedians there. But that was my first a $50 paying gig for a 6-minute guest spot in 2001,
That's not
maybe
bad though.
2000.
I mean, 6 minutes, $50. That's not bad. Like,
No, no, it's not.
just saying, that's like 500 an hour if at your hourly rate
Oh,
for the
sure.
2000s. That is pretty great.
Mhm.
It sure beats doing some of those crappy jobs. Did it feel like a huge accomplishment? Like, I guess let me ask it this way: what was the idea of making it when you first started comedy? Would it have been like the paid gig? Would it have been the road gig? Did it keep ratcheting up as you kept kind of
Um,
going up?
I was able to live off of it. That was okay for me. The not
Oh, yeah.
needing to work at a movie theater, the not needing to, have a 9 to 5 deal, the, you know, being somewhere completely not home for 4 days a week, but being paid enough to have that be my living, that was enough for me. I there was a certain point where the the fact that I was doing something that I wanted to do and was compensated for it, that was enough for me. At certain points, I'd be like, "Oh, I wanna be famous, and I want this, and I want that." Like, there was times this is all, like, young kid shit, where I was like, "If I don't get a comedy special by the time I'm 25, I'm quitting." And, when you're 23, you're like, I don't think that comedy special's happening, 'cause I would use stupid things that I've known, like Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy had a special at 22. Eddie Murphy is a rare specimen. Um,
Yeah. I mean, his career was short-lived, though. Not his whole career, but the stand-up portion of it.
yeah,
But man, did it burn bright.
yeah, yeah, delirious, like, yeah. I foolishly thought, okay, so Eddie Murphy did it at 20, so I better have at least a half an hour special by 25. But it's not. It is all relative. Um, it's how good you are. It's where you want to be. Um, it's how much you put into it. And the fact that I enjoyed stand up, I had a certain respect for it. Um, I don't know. I the fact that I was able to do it and not have to pay for the hobby was that was enough for me. The fact that I was able to do that and, like, after some, hemming and hawing, I came to the realization that I'm doing something that I want, and I'm paid for it. I don't need to do other things. I don't need to be famous. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. I could be in an office right now, you know, making copies for someone and just BSing about some bullshit and be really miserable, or I could be miserable about driving and turn that into material. And it was very hard to after a certain amount of time. Again, young stupidity is really a lot of my inner turmoil, but learning over the course of history was, um, yeah, especially in hindsight, having having a gig that pays and not needing to do other things to make ends meet was that's a it's a success for me. I don't you know
It's a huge success, man. That means you're professional. Like you're making your living on it. As a musician, I strive to do that. I don't know that I ever made a living. Like there was times where that was my only source of income, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't say I was a professional. I never made a living on it. Um, I was just a loser at times. But that's awesome, dude. Like you were actually able to like get rid of the side gig. I should have kept it, but we decided to get rid of them to go on the road, and it was a poor financial decision.
Well, if you believe in yourself and you put the work in, the fact that you're good enough to make some money, it just means you need tweaking. That's all. And you know, keep going.
Well, kind of along those lines,
Oh,
throwing you a bit of a curveball.
oh
Oh,
boy.
sorry, were you going somewhere
No,
else? Oh, okay, you're just the curveball. Gotcha.
wait. Before you do that,
Oh yeah.
so you were talking about the bar tab and all that stuff. Um,
Yes.
is that part of, or did you end up doing door deals?
So eventually, the bringer shows became door deals, and then it's like basically you're just renting out the room, and then you'd split. It depends. Sometimes they'd give you like full door, and then you had to promise them X amount for essentially the room, and then they get all the drinks on top of that. Um, yes, that was only good if you kind of had a name. If you didn't, then it would just be worse than a bringer show. Essentially, you're just paying for an empty room, and
Yeah,
that sucks. But it is kind of one of those really expensive jam sessions that's like on time. So I guess it's one way to look at it. But man, yeah, those got tough if you didn't have kind of a crowd. But I happen to be, I accidentally found my way into a band. I had on headphones and I didn't know that they asked me if I wanted to join. I accidentally joined an emo band once. It was a weird time, but they had a really good following. So they would often like do the door split, or either the full door deal where we'd basically be renting out the room, or door splits. And man, that worked really well. But if we tried to do a bringer show, it was weird with that one for some reason. It didn't quite work.
so,
So,
it might be a little different for comedy because comedy alcohol is really important. Door deals, for
mhm.
those who are kind of lost, the venue splits, or the venue gives you most of the ticket price, if I'm not mistaken, and they take all of
It's
the alcohol. At
That's
least that's what it was
usually how it
promised.
was. Sometimes they would do like a flat fee for like essentially just you have the whole place for the night for like $500 or something like that. So you hope that the door is over that, so you at least make that back. But
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a bit of a nightmare story. I don't know if you're gonna ask this, but, me and a couple of friends from Long Island, we had a a gig where, the club that, we ended up working at, like, was familiar with me, and I was like, if I guess it's the closest thing to being a headliner that I've ever done, where I was the last person up. They offered me a door deal if I assured them an hour and a half worth of material, from however many, not just me, from however many
oh, okay.
comedians.
From every, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, did you have an hour and a half? Like,
No.
there's some headliners who don't have
Alright.
an hour and a half.
Oh, we're gonna read the map now? Um, and we got all of the ticket prices, and they got all the food and drink. $5 per ticket. I had 3 other comedians with me that drove, an hour and a half. Uh, there were 4 people at the show, and while we're sitting waiting for our $20, which was essentially $5 each, the owner of the club, with all the bravado in the world, takes a $5 bill, throws it down on the table. He goes, "That's your cut." And I was like, "There was 4 people." I said, "We're all gonna take 5, but what?" He goes, "No, 3 of them were comped. I comped them." And I was like, "Uh, what?" And, like,
Oh man.
the $5 each was already depressing. The fact that he did it in front of all the other comedians, I was just like, "Well, you heard him, guys. Um, what are we gonna do to split this $5?" And I just gave it to the guys that carpooled. It was atrocious. It was terrible. Club owners
Yeah,
suck.
I know it's not about me, but I've had a very similar one where just last minute, our one friends are like, "Hey, we got booked to this venue, but you guys should take over the gig. Like, we can't make it. Our guitarist is sick or whatever." And man, it was almost the exact same thing. So it's like last minute, we're trying to. This was back during like MySpace days, so we were
Oh,
trying to like message everyone and try and rally people to it. And yeah, it ends up being like about 4 people, but we didn't realize that that was the next band that was going on. Like, it was bad. And
wait,
then
you
there
guys
was
didn't
like
pay to be
5
here?
regulars. There's like 5 regulars who just didn't leave the bar, and then they had this big TV on that was still playing the game behind us and just would not stop. It was bad. Yeah. And I think we had to pay for that room
Yep.
too. I think there was something going on with that where we thought that we were guaranteed a certain amount no matter what, and no, it was kind of a bringer show that we just weren't told.
Dude, some clubs are shitty too. Like, some clubs will only give you water for free, some might give you soda, and I don't know, some of the better ones will give you a drink or 2.
Sometimes you just get a ticket, like
Mm,
I don't know. I've been paid in drink tickets where it's like it's literally like one of those stupid like raffle tickets, but you get 2
yeah.
of them per band member.
Some of the better comedy clubs in the middle of the country, when they hear New York comedian, they, "Oh, we take care of your hotel, your food,
Yeah,
your
that would
drinks,
be awesome.
just from being a New
Well,
York comic." Like, "Okay, I suck, but thanks for the food."
I you do hear some horror stories of like the comedy condos or
Oh.
whatever that some of those clubs
Oh,
have
yeah. Yeah, the
'cause
cummy beds and everything? Mm-mm.
it's comedians fucking with other comedians. Like, come
Mm,
on, like you gotta leave something for the next guy. Just ugh, bad times.
mm.
Uh, okay, well, let me throw you that weird curveball. So we
Alright.
kinda talked about your early days. Do you have any jokes that you're still proud of from the early days or any that you're embarrassed about?
Oh, most
Any
of them are
material that
embarrassing.
that kinda stands out to you now? What was the early Charles material about?
It was very Carlin-ish. Um, like, there's stuff that's still up there that I could probably sleepwalk through, like the road signs bit, which is like a connection to, 40 years ago, George Carlin. That still kind of works 'cause we still have cars, we still have stupid signs, and since being in the UK, I can kind of tweak it to that audience, and I don't know if it'll work over there, and I've been trying to figure out, well, I need to be legal to work over there before I can even entertain the idea, but, the fact that I'm, like, eager to get in front of a crowd again is that's its own thing, but the fact that I have confidence to just kind of adopt it, I guess it says that I'm proud of it. The road sign material from here, uh, the porn on DVD thing, even though it's all digital now. I think my wife and I were kind of trying to tweak it to be modern, and, I mean, the fact that
VR porn. I don't know. What's modern porn?
Pornhub, I don't I think we had certain things, the way stepsister porn is kind of popular now, and, uh,
Mm.
I the fact that I feel comfortable enough to lead in with 15, 20-year-old material, I guess says that I'm proud of it because I'm not rinsing it.
Was there anything that you would not be proud if it made its ugly head known again?
Um,
Is there anything you're ashamed of, or was it all like a learning curve? When I think back at like some of my early songs, like they are just cringe. Like I do not want to hear them. I don't want the world to know that they existed. It's bad.
do you know what sucks about having a big dick? For as much as I thought I was a badass at age 16,
Fair
uh,
enough, but you brought that up a few times, so
mm,
I don't know. I got to think that maybe you still have a little bit of pride in that joke. Maybe I'm
I
wrong.
the 40-something me respects the fact that I had the balls to do that. That's that's really it. Oh, you poor ignorant fool. Opening with that. Um, there's stuff that I won't say that cancel culture is a thing, but I think comedians are getting a little worried about looking a certain way for social media audiences. My bit about attracting men, where the punchline was, uh, "I'm a faggot." I attract a lot of gay guys.
It was it was endorsed by a member of the community. So I don't know. Even today, it's getting lauded. So I think it's a funny punchline.
I do I mean, obviously, I did it, and it's not meant to be derogatory in any way. It was, you know, it's just a quirky, borderline hicky way to say, yeah, excuse me, hacky way, not hicky, to say, "Hey, it's a fun play on words. See, I attract a lot of gay guys. Magnet rhymes with magnet, right?" And the fact that, like, it kind of gets winces now just because of that word, it's like, "Nah, I'm not making fun of anybody. That's" Oh, wow. Um, Lucy, right on. 5
Oh yeah.
memberships, appreciate it. Lucy always has a different picture on the, I
She
always
likes
feel
to
like there's
update
someone
things,
else.
man.
I'm like, "That's not" oh, it
No,
is.
there's only one Lucy. There's a Lucifer, but there's only one Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy. Too nice.
Indeed, way too nice. You're awesome.
Indeed.
Oh yeah.
I forgot what I was saying.
Well,
I saw green,
well, then let's
literally.
just go ahead and change it again.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we got new members. That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned that you kind of had your second set not go particularly great. You
That's
had a
one way to
guy
put
kind of
it.
stand up. Um, have you had a time where you like absolutely bombed, like just bombed, or would you consider that like the worst?
That's the most effective a response I've had, like, literally someone stand up in front of the stage and just kinda, like, shoot me a dagger before they left, like, "I've been here 3 hours and you're doing this right now?" It's kinda like, "You are
Yeah.
the reason I'm leaving." That's everything that he said in his eyes. That was quite effective. It sent something down my body. Um, I had a gig that I think there was, like, 6 people in the audience, and it was my birthday, and, it was I think it probably was the last time both my mother and my father were in the audience, so they were 33% of the audience.
So that was
And,
another thing I was going to ask you. Like, had your parents ever come to a show? But fair enough. You
you know
just answered that. I'd love to hear the rest of the story. Sorry for
and
pushing it.
no, it's I guess it's a little bit of added pressure where it's just like, "All right, both my parents who have always been divorced as long as I've been alive, they're at my show together. It's my birthday, and no one's here, and I'm bombing. Not even my parents are laughing at me.
Why wouldn't they give you the support chuckles?
They're a
Come
third of
on.
the audience. I need to hear you."
They're just trying to blend in.
I don't wanna let them know I know you. So that one stings, but, it's in due time, you learn that anything less than 20 people, it's just you could try to be as normal for them as possible, but in the grand scheme of things, you just learn something from it and try to be entertaining for them.
Hmm.
I didn't know that at that point, though.
Yeah. I did you learn something from every time you kind of failed on there? Because you mentioned like you kind of keep it with you, and you would be like stuck in that emotion even when you'd go on to like the next show. I don't know. Do you feel like you learned something from it, or was it just a desire to never feel that again?
I liked learn no, I liked learning from the misery more than I enjoyed the happy response, like the orgasmic whole room laughing, like, "Yeah, that feels good." Um, I would catch myself every now and again just kind of, like, soaking it up, but, you know, unless you're closing with that, you gotta keep going. Um, I know what good feels like, and, to replicate that, I know that I want to do it, but when you're feeling something negative, when you're feeling dreary, how something doesn't work, I kinda try to just let that soak in and be like, "All right, what did I do? Why is this like this?" Um, and try to understand how it got there and, um, respect. what happened in that process and try to learn as much as possible from that. From a great bit, I'm not going to learn anything from, "Okay, that went perfectly." No notes. Um, but I can learn a ton from, "Alright, people left, they were quiet, what added to that? My night sucks, um, now what? How do I not feel like this again? How do I feel less like this again?" I mean, that my favorite moments were when I would, like, have a rough start and win them over. Like, that was
Yeah.
awesome. Like, 6 minutes in, like, "Ugh, this is gonna be a shitty one, a waste," and, my close hits or just like, "Ugh, that was
I think
awesome."
people love kinda watching that and kinda watch it somebody masterfully kinda, like, win over the crowd, like, I mean,
I
there's
didn't say
the famous
masterfully.
Bill Burr one, like, the Philly thing, like,
Oh,
my god, that is just, like, amazing, but I think there's a reason why that's iconic, like, people like watching somebody win over a crowd,
mhm.
like, it's kind of a David and Goliath moment.
Dude, the fact that he
Well, that's awesome.
closes and he says, "This doesn't change the way I feel about you people." Ripping them out for 15
Well, come on, man, they booed Dom Herrera, you can't do that, he's a legend.
minutes.
Um, well, I feel like you kind of already mentioned a couple, but,
Mm,
is there, like, a specific moment from your early career that, like, you really hold on to? I mean, that standing ovation at, like, the
standing
3rd
O.
one, that sounds pretty awesome. I
Yeah,
had a feeling that might be the one.
those 2 are pretty high. The 2nd show, the 3rd show, just the stark contrast between those 2 and being so early in my, career, um, it kinda solidified, like, "Yeah, I can handle this." I it's so when it sucks, but, I didn't die. Um, that kind of told me that, the juice is worth the squeeze. Um, the first the first time that, uh, I wasn't really I wasn't a paid comedian. I was still doing, like, guest spots and things when, I did a guest spot, I wanna say Westchester, not quite Manhattan, but a little north, and like, a lot of things I was doing, I was trying, and, uh, I fucking slayed that crowd, and it was a thing that the guy who burned my notes, after the set was over, he held me close, and he gave me this look, and he's like, "That was very strong." And, like, I knew it, but for someone else to like, just because he was pretty honest with me. Again, he was like, "Fuck, here, no notes, go try." Um, like, in that moment, I was like, "Okay, I can be proud of this. This is quite awesome." And it's things like that, you just try to replicate it and chase it. But when you're in it, you don't realize it until it's gone. And, like, the show was over, the set was over, but like, looked me in the eye, and he's like, that was very strong." And I was like, "Ugh, wait, I wanna go back and do it again."
Well, can I kinda ask you about that? Like, how did you assess whether, like, a gig was a success or not? Did you I guess what I'm asking is, like, for us, we would always, like, bring, like, this stupid, like, digital recorder, and we'd, like, record every set. We'd kinda set it near the drummer, made sure that,
Okay.
like, the monitors were kinda picked up, and then we could kinda listen back, and it's like, "Oh, we totally screwed this up. Like, this was not well. This did not play out how we planned."
Mhm.
Did you do any of that? Like, did you record your own sets, or was it just kinda going off your notes and, like, the reaction that the crowd gave you?
Um, we didn't all have phones the way we do now.
No, no, and neither did I in the beginning. Like, it was this stupid little, I think it was a Radio Shack digital recorder, but somehow it worked really well when it got overloaded. It sounded good. It had, like, this built-in compression.
Hmm.
But,
Yeah,
yeah, I was just I know that it kinda took us to another level when we started, like, listening back to, like, every practice, every gig, every single thing so that we could actually hear it's not how I'm picturing it in my head. Like, it wasn't just glorious. Like, this was a
right,
mistake. This was a mistake.
right. No, no, you
Um,
I hate, um, when somebody says, "Hey, let's watch your material." I'm like, "No. How about
yeah.
no?" Where people laugh at it, like we watched something of mine a couple of months ago from, like, Gotham or whatever. I hate it. I fucking hate it no matter how well someone enjoys it or not. I wanna tweak it because when you're on stage and you do something, in the moment, you're like, okay, let me just do this or change that. No show is ever perfect. Um, Even if like that was very strong show. There's probably like I didn't like the way I opened, so I would probably change that even. So I feel like it's this living thing. Even if you were to like be dropped into a thing that you know how it's going to turn out, you're still going to do something slightly different. And I don't know. It's it's something fun about performing live that you know no matter how much you think you're going to do like a scripted thing, some sort
Mhm.
of vibe is going to change something, and you're always second guessing yourself. And I don't know. I wouldn't want to record myself all the time for like a bunch of reasons. I'd probably hate myself more if I was like, oh, stepped on that punchline. But whenever someone had a camera, I was like, yeah, yeah, tape it, please. And yet, it was weird. I would watch but not listen as much to my shows to see, like, where I was standing, less so about what my, like, what I was saying and things, because when I get nervous, I speak very fast. Um, and, eh, I can kind of hide it physically, but I wanted to do the opposite where, you know, just be still and maybe that'll subconsciously get my mouth to slow the fuck down. So I was more concerned with that because I knew I was speaking fast, and if the one thing that, like, I had internally was if I knew I was speaking fast, I would make myself more anxious and then just go faster. So it was like I couldn't be conscious of the fact that I was nervous and speaking quickly. So
Hmm.
it would just kill me even further. I was like, "Oh, I fucked that up. I need to go faster." And there's
That
sometimes
is
I'm sorry, there's sometimes where
that's
you're
good.
go ahead.
Please, this is about you. I'm just jumping in and being a jerk. You were saying there's sometimes.
There's sometimes where, shit.
I'm sorry I jumped over
Oh,
you.
no, it's fine.
You were mentioning speeding up, and then like kind of psyching it up in your head so that you would kind of keep going faster. I
Shit.
was gonna say with music, it's a little bit easier because like you can always use a click track because there is that natural tendency. Like even you want to speed up when the crowd's kind of into it.
Oh,
So there's
there's
tricks like that that really kind of help out with
and
music.
a negative thing for me was, if I was having a bad show, I wanted to get off stage, and that's not good for someone who already speaks fast. Like, me wanting
Yeah.
to end it fast on top of speaking fast, like, a 10-minute set, I'd be done in 30 seconds. Just be
Well,
like,
it's so
"The
crazy
lights
to watch
on."
a bunch of those like essentially like starting shows, the bucket shows, if you will, where they give you a minute and you can see when someone's bombing and they
Mm,
thought they had a minute's worth of material, but all of a sudden it's 40 seconds, it's 30 seconds because
dude.
you just burn through it when you're bombing. Like man, I've seen it way too much on like say a Kill Tony or any
The
local show.
the only advice I'd give someone who wants to take the stage is if they tell you 5 minutes and you think you have 5 minutes, you're wrong. It's better
It
to have
is.
too much.
Yes. Yeah, do not count for, like, laugh breaks in there, like, just keep
Alright, so this
going
is
and,
my
assume
3rd
you're doing it
standing O.
fast. Well, kind of along those lines, has there been a moment on stage where, a reaction from an audience has kinda changed your perspective on a joke or, maybe even comedy as a whole? Was there a big, amazing moment that changed your entire view on comedy? I'm sure there isn't.
Um, Not an audience that I was in front of, just the the having to be suggested a bunch of things,
Mm.
in modern day YouTube, like, I haven't been on stage since COVID, and I'm fucking freaked out because of all of these think pieces on why comedy's broken and just no, I'm sorry. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Um, you from your living room with a lav mic in your fingers don't know what's the deal with comedy. And the fact
You
that
don't
people are
understand. It's ironic. You're not supposed to be holding the mic that way.
the the treating satire like people are like telling gospel is kind of weird to me. I don't know why. Again, you would think it's right there established in the club. It's a comedy club. You're not delivering the news. It, I've lost faith, and unfairly so. I'm sure that there's crowds that just have a good time. Like Cody, Rudy, and Sean and them, they went down to Rogan's. Uh,
Oh, hell yeah, the mothership.
yeah, and he said it was awesome, and I bet it is. I think they do Wanderbags too. So
Yeah, they do. They've got the Yonder thing, and they've got nothing but killers that are going out of there. I'm not sure if they went to Fat Man or Little Boy, but either way, those rooms should be packed. Like, there's waiting lists for that club, but
yeah,
you're also kind of paying a premium there. So it's a trade-off.
see, I would feel more comfortable trying something in a room like that where I know there's not going to be any TikTok journalists that you know try to capitalize on me working shit out. Um,
And it's a crowd that's there for comedy. Like,
right,
some of
right.
those New York audience have to be weird where, they're trying to sell tickets to anybody that will get it. They're lying to everybody. I know they always used to say like Chappelle will be there, and it's like, no, he's
Hmm.
not. He's not showing up at one of these
Hmm.
shows. I'm imagining that's tougher, especially if there might be like a language barrier or something where, if you get a club like Rogan's, like, yeah, you might have somebody who's not familiar with you or didn't come there to see you, but they're there for comedy. Like, they want to laugh.
Right, right. And the one thing that I haven't perfected this mood since my father died, but the one thing that I really enjoyed was if people wanted to laugh, I wanted to make them laugh. So, all right, let me at them is kind of my mentality with that. Like, all right, if they want to laugh, I certainly want them to feel that way. I want to be your comedic prostitute. Um, so yeah, you're right. Like Times Square crowds and shit. Like they just they're on vacation.
Hmm.
They don't want to laugh so much as they just want a night out, and that's different. I
Also,
do.
if you're told, like this super, I know they do it with the bands a lot when they around for venues. Like,
Oh,
they'll generally say like, these guys are interested, and then by the time you get there, maybe they canceled. Maybe they just don't mention it ever again. But that doesn't put the crowd in the right mindset when they suddenly find out that Chappelle's not going to be there.
and a secret to people that really want, you know, people dropping by, uh, go to clubs that aren't, Times Square, like, in tourism spots. I can't tell you how many times I've done, like, Gotham or The Cellar, and in the same show, like Lewis Black, Louis CK, Seinfeld have
Mhm.
all just rolled in and just done 8 clubs in one night, and, they're not advertising it, they're working on shit, but, for a random person, just I saw Louis CK open for Chappelle, who opened for Seinfeld, and then he opened for Charles Patterson.
I mean, that sounds like a hell of a lineup. I'd be down. Um, all right, I got just a couple more. I think you might have answered this one. I'm guessing it might have been gig 3 for you. But
Oh,
many comedians kind of say that they have like an aha moment where they feel like they're truly connecting with the audience. Was that on that standing O, that third one? Is that where you feel like you truly got an experience like that, or did you ever have one of those like aha, really melding with the audience type moments?
um, it I not anything that I can, like, single out and point out that, like, have kinda stuck with me, but the 3rd show where, like, I made eye contact with someone who was, like, doing this and, like, I just realized, like, "Wow, you're really excited about this." And that was like I did that? That's weird. Um, I don't know if it would even count as an aha moment. It was just like "Alright, that guy's happy, and it has something to do with what I just did." A bit of a pothead mentality, like, "Whoa, whoa, man, I said something and these people appreciate it."
That's pretty awesome. I mean, that's kind of like an aha moment. Um, All right. So you kind of mentioned one, your first paid gig that you were able to go on a road gig and get
Oh,
paid for it.
mm.
Do you have any fun road trip stories with other comedians or anything from the comedy road trip world?
No, I am the antithesis of this is another thing that I really feel shitty about in my later years. Um, I'm antisocial. Uh, I'm a bit cranky, and one thing I can't stand, like, I wanted my alone time, especially if I was in some podunk state that I just wasn't, uh, familiar with. I wasn't one for, like, just going down to the city and seeing the sights. Like, I hated that shit. I wanted to stay in my hotel room and fuck around on the computer or whatever. And, there were times where comedians would, like, meet up for lunch or dinner, and I really got bothered that one or this isn't always happening, but every now and again, like, a comedian was, like, on for the waitress, and it's just like, "Your regular stage show is awful. This is worse. Can you please I have to hear 2 more shows of you and your shtick. Can you not do that?"
So did
And
most of the comedians like? Did they have a? Were they able to like turn it on or turn it off? Because I hear that's there were some
um,
celebrities, some comedians. Robin Williams kind of comes to mind, where apparently they had a hard time like turning it off, where they were always kind of
right, and that's
on.
to me where it's like, "Dude, I'm trying to read. Can you can enough with the bouncing off the walls, please?" Um, yeah, it some guys are like that. Some I would imagine lots of people are doing stand-up because they think they're bringing light into people's lives and, like, really kind of desperate for the redemption. I don't know. I don't wanna put an emotion on what someone's doing this for, but sometimes it's just like you're trying very hard and, you just tone it down a bit. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, I didn't know socially, I'm with people I don't really know, I don't know how to, let them know that I'm dry. Um, so I would act a bit more frustrated than I was, and it wasn't coming across. So like, I had gathered a reputation over time that I was kind of standoffish, and wasn't wasn't entirely true, but I can understand why somebody feels that way. But like all of the things that I had done prior to doing stand up when I first took the stage was being sarcastic and like gripey. Again, think George Carlin in the 80s, he was very this thing sucks. Like I just emulated it and kind of molded something around it. But when I was doing the same thing, trying to be on, um, people were like, "You're kind of a dick." And it's like, "Mm,
I've
all
gotten
right."
the same criticism. What can I say? Perhaps you had a vision. You were a visionary, and that makes you a dick.
Well, yeah, it's still learning. Like even today, like try to remind myself, all right, they're not laughing; they're looking at you like you're pissed. You better chuckle or something to let them know that you're not as angry as you seem. Which it's still a learning process, but
Well, kind of along those lines, what advice would you give yourself in those early days of stand up or anything you wish somebody had told you back then?
well, like I said earlier, you think you have 5 minutes, you have two. Um, it's always good to have more time than you need, but at the same time, if you've gotten the light or whatever means of telling you to get off the stage the club has, try to wrap it up. Just because you have 15 minutes and you've only done 7 doesn't mean to do another 8. Um, respect others in the business and learn as much as you can. What I would tell myself is to not be so competitive, and that's unfortunate that the first 5, 6 years of me doing stand up. I was just like, "Oh, I gotta be better than these people," and it's not really like that. It for as much as YouTube and a lot of pockets of YouTube is really there's some bad to it, but there's really great parts of communities, and comedy really is that, and I don't know why I was just so thick-headed and arrogant and, competitive when I was younger. I really if there was something I would have tried to do is
Sounds like that was your first experience in it, though. Like it was your uncle or your mother's brother winning a contest, right? So
yeah,
competition. That's how you learned comedy.
yeah,
It
and
was
they're
always
like
instilled to you that you win awards
right,
of comedy.
and then there was, like, Last Comic Standing was on TV, and it's just like, "Oh, I've gotta beat all these other comedians to be better," and it's just it's not like that. They all kinda know each other, and I had some wrong information.
Hmm. So you think like the competitiveness is because I don't know. Like, granted, it's sketch. It's not exactly stand up or anything like that. But I hear that's one of the things that really kind of like set SNL apart from a lot of those other kind of sketch shows, if you will. It's their competitiveness and like their cutthroatness, and if you weren't bringing it, like you're essentially out of there, and that made them all perform on another level. Supposedly, I wasn't in
Y
there. I don't know.
yeah, so maybe, adapt and cater my competitive maybe that's what I mean, because there's people that I collaborate with, on YouTube that, um, I get competitive with, but it's for a different reason, it's for creativity's sake, like, "Oh,
Hmm.
this person's really doing a great job, I've gotta" like, being challenged by someone else that kind of makes me I don't have the switches inside, but if someone else gets me to challenge myself, it's a good way of being competitive, like, "Oh, okay, um, friends of mine are bringing their A game, I really gotta stop slouching." Um, it's just internally checking, "Can I do this? Is this my best?" Because whether or not that's their best, they did a fantastic job, so if I
Hmm.
wanna be mentioned in the same, uh, paragraph or discussion, I've gotta do better, I've gotta challenge myself, and I oddly enough, I look to other people that I trust or am friends with or close to. However they're doing, I try to gauge myself like, "Okay, I don't like, I'm not challenging myself, but if someone that I trust and respect, if if I really respect what they're doing, it's gonna be like, "Okay, alright." I mean, I joke with people like Cody all the time when he just fucks around and does something with editing. I'm like, "That's my thing." And then it, like, makes me do something ridiculous all over again. So, um, competitiveness for creativity's sake is good. Um, and, like, when you find your ceiling, you found it. But
For sure, and it sounds like you're still being competitive, but it's kinda with yourself. It's like, getting yourself up to that next level, but it's not necessarily you have to be that other YouTuber or
right,
whoever.
right. Everything, you know, if there was a way to do it, like a by the book way to do it, people would the people that are supposed to be famous would be famous, and the people that are supposed to not wouldn't be, but that's not the way things work. The only thing you could do is try hard and try to be your best and, recognize what you can or can't do, and, if people see it, they'll come back. If people are digging it, they'll come back. That's the greatest thing I could sell someone on entertainment. If they like it, they'll come back. People are gonna be like, "Oh, man, that was great." Shame whatever
I'm
happened to
done.
that person.
True. Okay, so kinda along those same lines, do you think there's any aspects of comedy that people are often they either have a misunderstanding or, they kinda overlook? Is there anything you want people to understand about what goes into comedy?
Huh. Well, again, doing it live is certainly different than I don't know if people are laughing. Like, whenever we do live streams and things, I don't know, like, we could be having a laugh, but I have no idea on what an audience is doing. So that's very hard. The advice
Mm.
I could give someone is the timing, the all the things you hear about timing in a public space is accurate. You don't think about it, but in a environment where you can't pause and then rewind, um, you don't wanna you wanna give things room to breathe, and if someone's laughing and still laughing, don't immediately cut to your next joke. Let them laugh, because some people are not gonna hear your next thing because of someone laughing. Um, I have such an antiquated take on what comedy and timing is. I'm sure that I mean, there's lots of people that started as, like, YouTubers and TikTokers that are doing stand-up, like, Matt Rife. Um, he kills, so he figured it out. So I
Yeah.
think maybe I'm thinking too poorly of of people that start in front of no audience. I guess that's the best way to start. Like, if you're used to no one laughing, I guess there's a yeah, I haven't properly thought of this. Yeah, I'm disrespecting people for the wrong reasons, I think. I've lost track
Hmm.
of what the hell I'm saying.
uh, yeah, I mean, the question was something along the lines like anything that's misunderstood or you want
Timing,
somebody to understand about comedy, and
timing,
it's timing.
yeah.
Is there a way to learn timing, or is it just you got it or you don't?
Oh, you'll if you're doing it, you'll learn it on this like, you'll figure it out. Like, again, it's doing jokes and having something work over a certain amount of time. You'll there's math to it. Like, okay, I did this joke 10 times, 4 times it worked. Maybe it's not for me. I did this joke 10 times, 8 times it worked. That's staying. And then within that 8, be like, okay, so how can I refine this and make it a bit more streamlined? A tight 10. Um, and timing has a lot to do with it. Like, if you can keep them engaged, give them time to laugh and still move along and get as many laughs per minute as possible, that's something that you, like, learn on the job, and it's all part of timing. And sometimes you have to, like, wait. Like, I have a bunch of like, the Siamese twins bit, like, that's a thing that will not get a laugh right away, and it's kind of baked in that someone's gonna laugh within 6 seconds, and there's gonna be, like, a rolling laugh at that laugh, like, how long do you let that breathe? That's part of stuff that you just learn in the process. Because I knew that that wasn't going to get a full room of laughter, so, "Alright, let's throw this out there, and when I feel like it's over, I'll move on." But it's
Hmm.
all from doing it. You can't you can't do what we're doing now and be like, "Okay, from the 0 experience I have in front of the people that are watching this, I can time this way," because there's no I'm just, like, throwing
Yeah.
darts blind. So
Yes, from the few live streams I've done, even the timing, like if it's slightly delayed, it just screws everything up, even with you. And then there's no
oh,
way to kind of understand how it's going to be seen by the audience because they're on like a 10-second delay. But
right.
sometimes StreamYard does its own delay within the delay where I don't know. It does funny things with time.
Yeah, and, like, in stuff like Thinkers or, Autop Stream over in Cody, I like not having to run the show because I could just jab in my little ridiculous jokes, but the problem is, like, there's other people going, and if someone's talking and then someone else chimes in, and I just have a stupid little tag to drop on the sentence, if it doesn't fit, I just have to get away from it because it's
Well, but then you got to wait like 10 seconds for the audience to comment on that, and then you relive it again.
right.
It's kind of awesome.
I mean, even that, I guess, is timing. Like, okay, this only fits if I'm the quickest one to it, because it won't make sense in 3 sentences. And then if someone else chimes in, it's like, all right, I cannot do this bit. But
Well,
yeah, it's I'm sorry.
I was please, if you got something else to expand upon that, please do.
No, no.
I just had kind of
Timing.
a wrap up. Yes, I'm bad at it. I understand. I'm sorry about this. I'm
No,
working on my timing.
timing is
Uh,
something I would say that you can never learn too much about timing as
so we
clearly.
kind of so we kind of went over what you when you were getting into comedy, what you thought like making it would be. Do you think that that's different today? What would your idea of success in comedy be today?
And comedy, I don't being able to do it and not have some sect of people on the internet say that you're the worst thing since cancer. Um,
Hmm. So it's
it's
impossible then.
yeah, some people enjoy cancer. Um, yeah, I don't know. Again, when I started, cell phones weren't as well, they were around, but they weren't as in everyone's hands as they are now, and social media wasn't a thing. The fact that, like, people want to be a social media influencer more than they want to be a celebrity now is that's kind of interesting because I don't know, like, what is under that umbrella of being an influencer? Like, that could just be, like, weight loss TikTok, like, that
Yeah, or vlogger. Just you show
yeah,
them
just
what you
put
do in a day, what you eat in a day, whatever.
yeah, yeah. I I don't know if there's it's kind of scary to me that comedy isn't I think differently. Like, I think, okay, how can we insert humor in this? And it has a lot to do with, my past and just I need laughter because of all the dreary shit that I experienced. But when I hear like, "Oh, I wanna do a mukbang channel," my first thought is, "How do you make that laugh? Like, how do you make that funny?" Like,
I
yeah, I'm
mean,
eating for an audience. Where's the in to make them laugh?
well, I mean, you got the obvious eating for two, like jokes. I'm doing this for you. I feel like there's ways that you could go about it. I gotta be honest, not a huge fan of that Nikocado avocado guy, but man,
Nikakadu
he
avocado?
had yeah, the avocado guy. He has a lot of I don't know what you'd call them, like master plan manipulation things where he's doing this. I guess you'd call it 4D chess, but he was
Yeah,
thinking ahead in a lot of it. That does seem like a joke in a way, or at least you're not taking it so seriously.
it's some Andy Kaufman planned out
Very
social
much.
commentary thing where it's just like, "All right, what is the end goal here?" And was his boyfriend also, taking part in the weight loss thing? Because they were both
I Yeah, I
bigger,
don't
weren't
know.
they?
I haven't seen him at all. Granted, I do not follow that much, but when he came back, it kind of blew up the internet for a minute. So I saw like part of the first couple, and unfortunately, I didn't see him in any of it. So I'm not sure if he went along with the journey.
There is some sort of interesting study to be made from that, like, people enjoyed him when he was but he also was, like, leaning into the absurdity of whatever the hell his
Oh no, he
character was.
was, and he really knew the community too. Like there were all these like hidden Amberlynn Reed jokes that he was just like throwing in. She's another famous mukbanger, internet enemy. There was just so many little things that he was adding into those. That dude definitely had a sense of humor and was definitely doing a Kaufman like thing.
Hmm.
So I don't know. That's one way that I can think of adding comedy to mukbang. But give me
I'm
another one. I'll try.
I do not have a, gallbladder anymore, so I don't know if I can get that hard to work.
Well, what about just trying Coke flavors?
Oh,
You've tried that out on your channel. How is that different from a mukbang?
yeah, yeah, I guess you're right. I just don't have the bravery anymore to be like, "Fuck it, I'm not gonna talk about movies anymore. I'm gonna start from scratch and be the soda guy." I mean, there is you know what, you're right. There from a position where I really am comfortable with being a guy that, like, points at something and says, "Dumb, right?" Into just people in their cars just eating a Whopper and saying, "Yep, I'll give it a 3 out of 4." Like, "Thanks."
It's
You're in
flame
your
broiled.
car. So there's something absurd about a lot of things that people go to, like, TikTok just used to be dancing, and, I don't know.
But
The
now you can watch movies that way, and you can also watch a whole bunch of crowd work
yeah.
comedy. You know, it goes over well.
600 clips. Yeah, I I think of the absurdity of someone, like, practicing their little dance in an empty room, just
Hey, man, it
nailing it.
went over well for Wednesday, okay? Like, that dance, it caught on. You
Mhm.
could be the next Wednesday or Backpack Kid, or I'm trying to think of another one. I don't know.
Yeah, what is this? Rizzler or whatever?
Well, I mean, you gotta work on the jawline, you know?
Is that what that is?
I
Like,
got issues with it, so I never practice with that, but you know.
what is it? Just work on the jawline? That's what that thing is? Rizzler?
Well, I mean, you gotta work on it, then you can accent it, but, you
Oh,
know, they're showing off the Chad zone.
oh.
I don't know.
Yeah, and there's times like that where I just feel way too old to be talking to, college age kids. Like, what's
Get
a
on board
Rizzler,
with
guys?
it. Michael Bay's on board with it. He's gonna skibbity toilet. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, mm-mm. Again, I don't know where we started and how we got here, but here we are.
Well, fair enough. I think that's all I had on my list of questions, but, I don't know. Jonah Fremolt, asked a few ones up.
Okay.
Think pieces on comedy? Question mark.
Yeah,
Ergo, taking comedy seriously. Do they not understand the fundamental flaws that in that concept? Excuse me. I will learn to speak.
well, I don't know if you're being humorous, and by the way, if you have a question, now is a great time to drop it, because great, your prepared stuff is over, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Except for my
and
drink.
go ahead,
Apparently, it's
finish your drink, and,
down my face. But other than that, no more
apologies.
prepared
See,
stuff.
timing, I keep telling you, timing. If you have something in the chat that you'd like to discuss, for either of us, of course, uh, hit it up now, um but you could be humorous here, Jonah, about think pieces on comedy, ergo taking comedy seriously. Yes, and that's exactly what I mean, taking comedy seriously. Does it not understand the fundamental flaws in that concept? I would hope they don't, because taking something as serious as, you know, Chappelle, Gervais, um, who else? Who
Um,
else gets
the other philosophers of our time. Good question.
yeah, well, like,
Um,
a lot of think pieces are like, "Oh, the Joe Rogan special that destroyed his career," and it's like, "Did it?" I would love to have
well,
my career destroyed the way his has.
you understand, it's never going to be the same after Burn the Boats. It's just, it was the nail in the coffin. Fair enough. You also get the opposite side of it that like comedy is now ruined because, you know, there's a Anna Gadsby out there, or because she has they have a special where a whole bunch of different identifying people were able to be showcased in it. That's the end of comedy. Um,
I
I don't know. It kind of feels like there's room for every type of comedy
There
night,
is.
but
If it I mean, there's the simplest, if people laugh, it's comedy.
yeah.
Um, I would argue that something like Hasan Minhaj, I
Mm.
mean, congratulations on
But
the Netflix specials, but
he
I don't call
plays
that
like the
comedy.
best friend on every show. Like he's always like the husband of the friend, and
Yeah. What was that movie? It Ends With Us or
it
Waiting
ends
for
with us. But
Oh,
I swear that's like the sixth thing that I've seen him in that same role, where he's like the friend of the main person's husband or whatever.
yeah. I wanna see a sequel where he's actually got, like, body parts in his shed or something, because that's the only way that his character makes sense like that. It's just like, ugh, you're aggressively obnoxious about how friendly you are.
So Dice happened to ask this amazing question.
Hmm?
Let's say someday streaming software and YouTube manage to get real time chat,
Ooh.
no delay. Would you ever consider trying stand up via live stream then?
Oh, like a Zoom thing where I could hear
Yeah,
them?
Zoom comedy, but no delay in real time. You get the actual, reaction in real time.
I guess I would, because I my most important piece, timing, being able to hear how you're doing, and when you can let the thing breathe and start up again. It'd be unique. I certainly don't want to be the first to do it, but I'm not against trying it. It's an interesting concept. I'm not against it. It's just digitally, does it work to sit like there's this is gonna sound weird. There's a certain energy to a room when you're live, and I mean, you could probably say this too about being a musician where like when something's working, you could just
Mhm.
feel it. I don't know if that would
Yeah,
be the
it
case.
is an energy, and
Right.
when you're failing, like, that whole energy kinda gets sucked out of the room, and it's such an awkward feeling.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never felt it in music like I have in comedy, even when somebody's, like, failing, like, people just kinda laugh at them. But, you're still getting that reaction of, like, being laughed at or whatever, or even booed. But, man, that, like, just silence, like, just the crickets in,
Yeah.
like, a comedy club.
Farting in a funeral, that kind of like, oh, oh. Oh, no. This is
But,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah, so I the thing that I enjoy about live is having that energy, that temperature, that gauge, like, "All right, this feels good. How does the room feel?" I don't know if that would come across on, like, a Zoom style comedy thing, but I'd have to get used to doing stand-up again before I could even think of something like that, but
But you've now promised the chat and everybody else that you will. Okay. No, we'll hold you to that.
Brought to you by Zoom.
And then, it looks like Jonah did have a, kind of follow-up on that. Jim Jeffries put it pretty well. They wrote an article on my stuff. JJ thinks this. No, I don't think that.
Mm,
I think that is funny to say. God, I suck at reading and talking. I will
no worse than
eventually
me.
learn.
No, Jim Jeffries is another like, if Bill Burr weren't who he is today, I would say Jim Jeffries is one of the better 4+ star comedians out there. Like, there are comedians that their material transcends the humor itself and becomes something of a pop culture thing. His bit on guns, uh, that I mean, he even says it gets watched like a million times every time there's a mass shooting, and for those of you who are following America, it's quite often. Um,
Gets a lot of views is what you're saying.
yeah, um, the fact that it's both funny and true, like, there's that hacky it's funny because it's true. Um, yeah, the thing is, it's really funny and it's also very true. I don't know if it's one of those things like, "Oh, if you think about it." I don't think you need to think about it. It's just, yeah, we're fucking dumb. And he's nailed it with, "I have it for protection, but I lock it up." Then it's not protection. Uh, there's a ton of material, like, uh, when I was younger, I thought the milk thing by Seinfeld was next level. I don't
So you were a Seinfeld guy at one point. I
Oh,
know right
yeah.
now you're anti Pop-Tart movie,
I'm
but,
just I'm pro Seinfeld stand-up, I'm anti Seinfeld Pop-Tart film. Uh, his film Comedian, like, that's when I was really with Orny Adams, I think, was in it, and Orny Adams was the
Mhm.
next guy, and I can remember thinking, "I'm better than this guy," and that's where I was like, Come on, man." So, I enjoyed that, it was interesting, but as someone who's left stand-up and nowhere near the degree that Seinfeld has, the you know, needing time to come back and being worried about coming back, I think that was played up a little bit for the movie. It's all timing, it's just getting your timing back, that's the only thing.
And I think, Jonah was adding something to that, the Jim Jeffries shooting bit, I believe. They're studying that bit at MIT and other colleges, which is kinda weird because I made some of the statistics up.
It's awesome. Right, like, you're supposed to laugh, you're not supposed to have a history lesson, although, um, some of the ways that I learned about certain aspects of history was Eddie Izzard's, Dressed to Kill bit. Like,
Oh man,
I've never
session is
learned
special.
something and laughed at something so much. Obviously, it's not all true, but it's got this, satirical spin on things, and he has a joke, or they have a joke about, how USA shows up late to World War II, and it's funny because, it wasn't exactly perfectly, we were late, but there was a reason to it. It wasn't like we were just like, "Ah, fuck the UK." Um
Mostly they tried to get in sooner, but you know,
Right. So, like, you don't take it at its face value. You consider the truth and realize, "Oh, they're being funny about how long it took us to get involved in the European theater." Funny. It's funny. Not exactly true. Um, it's because comedy's designed to make you think. It's not designed to be what you think. Be what you think.
hmm, I do like that.
Deep.
I do like when comedy kind of makes you think.
Right.
I do kind of hate the. It seems like the clapter bits are kind of ones where they're kind of telling you what to think or you should agree with this. Like, come on, clap. And yeah, it's not my
Mhm.
brand of comedy. What can I say?
Well, I mean, I y y you brought up someone, and I brought up someone, and I would say Hasan Minhaj is like
But you don't understand.
his
His wife is
closer
pregnant again.
his closer was, "My wife is pregnant." Like, I
Well,
wouldn't close a wedding speech with that.
that was after he told the story, the fake story, the story that cannot be confirmed about him spilling white powder on his other child. So, good news.
I mean,
Um,
you you fabricate
it's
certain things when you're on stage, but to to just have it be this roundabout way of saying, "My wife is pregnant, thank you, good night." What? What?
especially when it seems like you're giving them kind of a slice of your life. I think that's
Right,
one of the
right.
reasons why perhaps I'm reading too much into this, but I think that's one of the reasons why people went so hard against Cosby. Not only did he do a horrible thing, but he was kind of projecting this like certain lifestyle, and
Mm,
it turns out that's not necessarily him. He
right.
was into some darker stuff.
And there was quite a bit of hypocrisy in him speaking to, like, Pryor and Murphy, like, "You gotta be clean." "Okay, I'll be
Mhm.
clean, but I'll make sure to roof you every."
The only men on stage.
Right.
Uh,
I would agree with that, Multi.
ooh,
If someone needs a
what if
laughter. Go ahead.
we give you a laugh track? Would you then do stand up for us? We'll give you that right away feedback.
But I need to I have to time myself to pre-recorded material, whether or not
I
you
mean, we'll
guys are.
try and trigger it at the right time. We'll try and make it sound natural. We could
That's
ask AI to help.
oh boy, that's very unnatural timing is what it sounds like.
Yeah, like a sitcom. Dice has it.
So sitcoms, right, yeah, canned laughter.
This
Yeah,
time it's from the robots. It's advanced canned laughter.
well, it we've discussed this on your channel, and, there's that AI Carlin bit that
Mm,
was it was good. Like, I don't know how much of it, uh, Dudesy like, I'm assuming it was AI with benefits, because if it
I
isn't,
do
that
not think any of the writing was Carlin. Like, come on, it's two comedians who are like hosting. Well, a writer comedian and a comedian who's known as a good writer
mhm,
who host this thing. I really don't think AI is doing that. From granted, the conceit is that they have this special AI that they have access to. So maybe, just maybe, it could write a joke. But man, when I've tried to get AI to do anything funny, it's very limited. I don't think that.
its timing is broken, yes.
Yeah, ChatGPT does not understand comedy, but maybe there's some more advanced one.
Yeah, and that very good. And to tie that into what I'm worried about, it seems like a lot of content creators think of comedy the way ChatGPT does. Like, this is a thing they said. It's horrible. It's like, yeah, it's horrible because it's not. It's a joke. The irony is what makes it funny. You idiot. I'm sorry. I really. I need to show you on the doll where where these think pieces have touched me. Uh, fun little side note, the laugh tracks we typically hear are of people who aren't alive anymore. Whoa. Whoa. I don't know
I
if that's
mean,
fun.
it makes sense. Like the Wilhelm scream or Wilhelm
Oh,
scream.
yeah.
It's a classic. Probably not with us anymore.
Oh, yeah, that was recorded in, like, the 30s, I think.
I mean, I guess there's a possibility they're with us, but I doubt it. Um, Same thing with most of those laugh track people.
That's
I don't know.
haunting.
When's the last time they created a new laugh track?
We're using their laughter for something that they weren't even experiencing.
True. Good actors.
Their laughter brings joy to people that don't even realize. I don't know, I'm getting a little bit deep on this. I collect macabre facts. You're welcome. Horrible
Thank you.
jokes are the best. Why?
You do sound like a certain.
Cat Black?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to subtly say that,
I'll
but
say it.
yeah. I mean, uh, I'm glad that they want to go out to the comedy club. I do wish that they weren't looking for the comedians to tell horrible jokes and bomb. Uh, I don't know. I get something to finding a comedian like the way that they dig themselves out of a hole, but
Mm,
I don't want them to bomb first. I just want to see that. Like I love the Bill Burr thing. Like he doesn't go out and bomb. Just the audience is not on his side at all, and he subtly wins them over. But it's not through that doing horribly. It's he skillfully wins them over. I like that part.
yeah, the purist in me, the absolute fan of comedy, like the Philadelphia set by Burr, like that should be, if they ever make a comedy school, that set should be taught for just
For sure. There's a reason why
comedy.
he's going to be on the Mount Rushmore. I
Mhm,
lobby for Burr up there.
mhm. Yeah, because there's so much happening there that is it crowd work? Is it really only funny if you know Pennsylvania? Yes, but, um,
I mean, I know nothing of the East Coast. Like the
mm,
furthest east I've been is like Ohio, and it still all makes sense to me.
yeah,
Granted, I know certain things, but man, that is one of the strongest sets I've ever seen. Just there's a reason
yeah,
why it's legendary.
from a crowd that just was not having it too, like, that's awesome. Um,
Well, I think
shit,
there was one super chat like way up at the top.
okay.
Yeah, it looks like Christian Nichols for 199. Thank you so much for the stickers, Sipo. You the man.
Oh, Christian, thank you. So I'm assuming you got my face. Um, it's this, just a bunch of
You guys too could own Charles's face.
yes, there,
He could haunt you always.
you can cover your MacBook Apple with that. Um, thank you, Jonah. Great topic discussion, Gray. Who are your guys'
Ooh,
Mount Rushmore of stand-up comics?
ooh.
Carlin's up there. Carlin's up there.
Does Dice make an appearance? I mean,
No.
like he had a. Fair enough. Fair enough.
If I'm only doing 4, Dice isn't there.
Ooh, sorry, Dice.
Oh, Andrew Dice
I'm
Clay,
just
not
saying, I
Dice
like the
Clay.
fact that Dice collects macabre facts. So, what can I say?
Yeah, well, I guess both Dice is shit, but it said stand-up comics, right. I have yet to see Dice Rowland do stand-up, but Andrew Dice Clay still doesn't make it. So,
Hmm.
negligence is what I'm claiming. Um, Carlin, Burr, Pryor.
Depends if you want to kind of go classic or contemporary, because it's like Pryor, I agree, but would you go Pryor and Chappelle? Because it does kind of feel like Chappelle kind of came after Pryor, came after Murray, and it's not Murray, excuse me,
Murphy.
Murphy,
Mhm.
and kind of built on what they were going for, that kind of super young energy that's kind of out there. But man, he's doing his own thing now. I don't know.
Yeah,
It kind of
it's
depends, because like Pryor is definitely one of those that I'd put up there, but I don't know if a lot of the today's comics are going to use him as like their current inspiration, which sucks. I also fear like a Patrice might get lost in there where he
mm,
really inspired a ton.
it's hard. It's hard. Like I'm thinking of all like the alternative comedians, like Patton Oswalt. I really enjoy Patton Oswalt. Mitch Hedberg. It's someone said
But then,
Norm
like, how do you
Macdonald.
not do it Stephen Wright if you're doing
Eh,
like, I think I'd want Norm on my I don't know, man, I couldn't do it to just 4.
right.
And then I'd have to kinda choose classic or contemporary
I,
because
yeah,
sadly,
Sarah
I think
Silverman is one I would probably like.
yeah.
I don't want to shit on the women, but I also don't want to just hear dating jokes. And Sarah Silverman was not that. Old school Lisa Lampanelli.
Yeah, she went pretty far back in the ooh, and
Mm,
then you have to take someone's entire career into consideration because yeah, if you are looking at some of the last ones, Pryor's last one wasn't the greatest. There's a couple of them that have kinda done that, but you understand why they're still going
so
and why
Eddie
people are
Murphy,
still
based on career, has basically been flawless because he
I
got
mean,
out
kinda like your uncle, like, he just got out of there, like,
my
victory and
one
undefeated champion.
show.
Hey,
Thank
he's
you, Mike.
undefeated. Um, yeah, I don't think I'd put Eddie Murphy up there, even though, like, man, he has some impact, and is there, like, a more iconic maybe Dice has a more iconic outfit in comedy, but it's like I believe it was Delirious, but, like, anytime you see that outfit, like, it's like, okay. It's kinda like the Michael Jackson thing, but,
Mhm.
man, I think I'd go ooh, that's so tough. Man, so Burr would be up there for me, Chappelle would be up there for me.
Mhm.
Ooh, I'm trying to think because there's so many niche comedians that I love, but it's kinda my brand of comedy. I don't know if it's for everybody, but man, I think I'd go Norm, just, so
Hmm.
classic in such an amazing way. But I don't know. I think I'd wanna go more classic than that. Shit, that's only 3. I think I heard 3 from you. Do you have your 4th yet?
It's hard. It's
It
hard.
is.
I mean, I mentioned Eddie Izzard, and
Ooh, it'd be tough, man. There's a segment, but I mean, if you're only gonna go, like, certain years,
mm,
would Dane Cook make it to I know there's a time frame that he would have made it to everybody's,
mm.
at least the public's Mount
I
Rushmore of
mean,
comedy.
it's weird. Whatever he did, he molded some version of comedy of the last 10, 15 years. I I'm
Loud
sure
is
that, like,
funny.
like, his cadence is something that people
His
have.
essence,
Yeah.
he sued someone for stealing his essence,
Is that
but
true?
I yes, and, I don't disagree, but, I mean, you'd have to think of, like, Dave Attell's or whatever. How many people have you heard basically doing, like, a Dave Attell impression? Man, that
Mhm.
cadence is, like, hard not to kinda sink into that it makes me wanna talk like him right now, kinda thinking of it. And then if you're thinking of, like, the newer guys, like, man, Mark Norman, it's so hard for me not to be like, "Comedy." I don't know, just it's fun, man. Hey, hey.
Wow, I didn't realize that he sued someone. That's incredible.
Yeah, um
Hmm. Could just put Carlos Mencia on your Mount Rushmore, that way you get bits of a bunch of other comics in one, the sports center of stand-up comedy. Wow.
kinda
Shots
true.
fired.
You got some direct, like, Bill Cosby material up in there. I think he even, took some Bobby Lee material. There's a bunch of material that he, kinda took.
Dude, the fact that he stole other comedians' bits and did them before introducing them, like,
But he also took, like, really famous ones, but I guess, that's not unique. I guess Dennis Leary is kind of accused of that too, kinda taking, Hicks's bits and stuff.
yeah, so I have something of a controversial take. I think
Hmm,
Dennis Leary doing his version of Bill Hicks is still something different.
hmm.
I'm not saying that he should get credit for writing anything, but he added some sort of something to it. Like, um, people all know Jimi Hendrix's All Along the Watchtower,
Mhm.
and I don't know what I'm trying to say with that, but Is it fair?
I get what you're saying. He definitely created his own persona, and man, has he been booked on that persona, and
Yeah.
it works. And certain times it's been great. I love him in like The Ref, and like there's a whole bunch
Oh,
of other
yeah.
ones, but
Listen,
man,
cocaine has made quite a career for at least one person in comedy.
well, I guess that kind of led me down this weird rabbit hole in my mind, kind of the whole Stephen Wright and the one that everybody says was kind of directly inspired, like Hedberg.
Mm.
I don't know that he directly is, but it's those same type of really one-liners that are just like kind of amazing. I think I'd have to put Stephen Wright on my Mount Rushmore, but I think people kind of forget about that dude. But I Have a Pony is just such an amazing album. Do
We
yourself a favor, listen to that.
we discussed Gallagher last year,
Mm.
and I recently saw one of his bits where he's got a prop where it's the word
Is it
bomb.
the word? Yeah. He had some really clever
Yeah.
wordplay, and like that was the thing. Like I guess he used to be like an English teacher, I think, but like words were kind of his thing. He had the weird things like the sledge-o-matic and the giant couch, but
Mhm.
every once in a while he'd get one of these like kind of conceptual bits. That's just
Dude,
man.
it's very, very good. Like, I don't
He,
think I've ever seen it before, but seeing it, like,
yeah.
he has these flip over letters for those of you who are unfamiliar, and there's 4 columns, and he has letters BOMB, and he does this bit about the letters, and what he does is flip the first B from bomb, and I think it's a T, where he says, "This is Tom?" "No, tomb." And then he just keeps
Mhm.
switching the letters around, and you're like, "Wow, English is fucked," but this is it's one of those things where it's like, "Dumb, right? Look." And he just it it's
He had these
sharp. I
really
enjoy
smart
it.
bits.
Yeah.
Like people don't remember those from him, but each one. So I think that's the one from the special where he had the giant couch behind him. Like
Like,
it's
that's
weird because
yeah,
he's doing that like super conceptual shit while he has props behind him. Like
yeah. I know, watermelon guy, but holy shit, look at his tomb bit. Fuck.
there's a reason why he was able to sell his act to his brother and then have his brother be Gallagher too. There was an actual act. It's not just hitting watermelons, but fair enough. People conflate it with just prop comedy, but I think that guy had a little bit more going with his, especially his wordplay.
I agree, and I was just slapped in the face with it recently. There is something to be said. Is it even possible to do anything 100% original anymore? Isn't everyone kind of doing their own perspective on the same types of observations? Yeah. I
I'd love
mean,
to hear your take on it because I think you could still have it original by your
sure.
take on it.
Sure. I mean, I like the one thing that I learned rather quickly from doing stand up and seeing a bunch of comedians and you, you know that they're giving you some view into their life. There's a lot of comedians that have jokes about airport humor, and it's because they're not stealing from each other, but it's something they experience all the time. I found to be like doing a lot of road stuff, road signs, construction, just something I was doing more than anything else. But um original, perhaps not, but that might just be the recipient of the material. Like, oh, I've heard that before, but the person who's doing it maybe didn't intend on it to be like that. It's an unfortunate coincidence. Like, I was accused of stealing from Jay Moore, and I
Well,
went
he's
and
been
looked in.
accused of stealing from quite a few people, so I don't know.
Maybe he did steal from me, and I I was too slow. But um, when you think of something, you think it's original, no matter what your subconscious thinks. You need to be going off of something. You can't just create material and have it like literally be created from nothing. Like, how would you know it's funny? I think comedy
Yeah.
is speaking about things that we've experienced.
But I think there's a lot of things that other people are doing that kind of your take on it can be original.
Mm.
I know a lot of people do crowd work, but I don't know. When I see Big J Okerson kind of do crowd work, it feels completely different. It's not like he's just has these individual lines. Like, it feels like he's really kind of going in with the crowd. It feels like he's doing something original. And I've seen him, like, I got lucky enough to be able to see like 2 shows back to back. Like, I just was given free tickets to the next one. And
Nice.
man, it's completely different, but it's the exact same thing. And that's kind of what his sets are. He doesn't necessarily have a ton of like prepared material. It's kind of interacting with the crowd. But man, I've seen so many people try that and just fail. And then when you think of like one-liners, like, yeah, you could get a Stephen Wright or you could get, you know, a Hedberg, but you can also get like a Jimmy Carr type. And it feels like those are
Mm.
all uniquely different, but they're all kind of doing the same thing, like really short jokes.
Mm.
Not short jokes, but, you know, one-liners, really.
I'm wondering what Mitch Hedberg doing crowd work would be.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Oh.
I don't know if he sees or if he saw the crowds, some of those shows. Yeah, I think that the shades were also blocking his view, but I don't know. But man, I wish I could have seen that guy. I've seen
Right.
those specials way too much.
Yeah, the fact that I'm right now older than Mitch Hedberg ever was is like that kind
Mhm.
of bums me out. Like, I
Same. Yeah,
Okay.
and I have accomplished so much less.
Likewise. But I mean, people know and love him, and he was a feature comic when he passed, so he wasn't even that big a deal when like, he's one of those things where probably
He
more
blew up kinda
popular.
afterwards.
Right.
I kind of view him kinda like the Sublime thing. It's like, man,
Mm,
people started learning about him, and then it was already over by the time
yeah,
people
Sublime, very
really
good comparison.
embraced him.
Right. Yeah, well, ending the show with some unfortunate news.
Well, we could go on a slightly different little tangent. So Jonah's mentioned that he can think of at least 3 different comics that did a different take on little people versus midget. Yeah, I mean, like, premises are all kinda similar. I think
Mm,
where you kinda distinguish it is the punchline or what type of punchline you're going for, 'cause, you know, you could I like a lot of really dark comedians
mhm,
where they're kind of going to where you wouldn't expect it to go, but they might have a traditional setup. So, like Jezelnik kind of comes to mind, where
mm.
it's like you assume he's going here, and then he goes a completely different, super dark direction. And I love that. But I think if you just looked at like the setups, his would be similar to a lot of other people's, but his joke is not.
Yeah. It's people like Jeselnik that are, like, subverting comedians. Like,
Hmm.
if you know stand-up, you know where you're supposed to be going, and then Jeselnik's like, "No, we're gonna go in a different direction," which is, if you're a fan of comedy, it's that much more respectable, where I guess someone like Jeselnik wouldn't get a tourist crowd anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of things that I've learned. Some people are just charismatic, some people are just funny. And then there's things that, like, scientifically, humans laugh at different sounds. Like, this is why punchlines have "k" and "g" sounds, and a lot of, like, derogatory slangs have "k" and "g" sounds. It's because the human mind wants to laugh at those things. It's why the chicken crossed the road, that's where that joke came from, because the word chicken sounds funny. Um, it's these, like, scientific shortcuts that we can take, like, I'm gonna tell a joke about a city, and, figuring out that, I've gotta make the joke about Kansas because they'll laugh at that, where
Topeka.
yeah, right, yeah, there's a "k" at the end there. Yeah, it's just something like that where, you're kind of using a cheat code on what people are expecting.
Mm.
It's fascinating. Again, I'm not someone who is just like, "Funny, here it is." It was something where it's like, "Okay, I know where I wanna be. How do I make it stronger?" And there's these shortcuts that work. As the rule of threes is a thing for a reason, because the human brain expects things in thirds, and it works. I can't go against it because it works. I've seen it work.
Yeah, it's a rule, man.
Mm.
It might as well be a law.
The rule of the law of threes.
Well, yeah, man. Oh, well, there's possibly a question.
That's why you know for a fact the capital city of Thailand was named by a comedian. What, Bangkok?
Phuket.
Oh, fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't know anywhere else in Thailand but Bangkok.
I mean,
Bangkok,
both are
Bangkok.
great names.
Fuck.
Second only to Lake Titicaca. I mean, come on.
See, now that's humor for 5 different reasons. Yeah. Well, Gray, I appreciate you doing this with me. This was fun.
It was, man. And it was fun getting to know kind of your backstory. I'm really glad that the producer of your channel kind of inspired this whole thing and, set the ball rolling. Because, man, this is kind of fun to know this information.
Yeah,
Get to know you better, sir.
I'm glad we got to do this because I wouldn't be able to do this just on my own. Like, all right, guys, now we're going to talk about me. But yeah, this was an interesting way to do this. I appreciate it, Gray. I, like Gray said, thank you to Jacob. Jacob, this was a request that Jacob Benson, who's responsible for a lot of members, put this forth. I guess if Lucy has a request, that might be the next.
Oh yeah.
One. And obviously, thank you to Lucy. And yeah, if you have ideas on things to do in the future, we might be back tomorrow. I'm making really good time on the 31, and I didn't get my garlic phone done this week, so we might try to throw that up because I need to make funny jokes and draw.
Oh, hell
Jonah,
yeah, Jonah.
$10 super chat. Thank you, sir. Great, interesting, different type of content tonight, guys. Well, thanks to
you.
Jacob, and thanks to Gray, obviously.
Well, and thanks to Jonah now.
Indeed.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, I guess it'll be from today forward, it'll be a busy week. That's for sure.
For you, for sure, man. You got a lot of things going, a lot of irons in the fire, if you will.
Well, if you don't join us tomorrow night or later tonight, I guess at this point, Weekend Life proper tonight. Show business appears to be Sunday night again, and then the 31st, which is the 31st. there's 31 things that happen on that day, and
rumor has it they're going to be on time this time.
Yeah, patrons have a rough draft already, so we're looking okay. I might have to trim a joke or two, but we're in good shape right now.
Don't do it. Don't give in. Artistic integrity. Keep the jokes.
I need to make money. I'm not getting that shit claimed. Gray, any what do you got coming up?
Yeah, so my channel will not be dead in the future. There are many videos in the works, but yeah, I was trying to do this one that was all-encompassing, kind of a review of Joker 2 and then a response to all the criticism. Yeah, that's just way too much. So now it's just split into two. So review should be out really soon. Very timely, 4 weeks after the movie was released. And once it's right out of theaters, just what everyone was clamoring for. But the one that I've been working a lot more on is kind of the overall, I think a lot of the criticism is overblown and not correct. So, yeah, I have kind of an analysis and response to a lot of that criticism. So I hope that makes a little bit of a splash, even though I've waited till everything is totally cool. Aside from that, I'm working on a Smile 2 thing. I think it's getting a little bit of horrible criticism as well, where, man, this thing is just amazing, in my opinion. So please encourage me to go make more content, because it's taking way too long and my channel's dead.
Gray, are you going to rename your channel Fuck Cody Leach and His Opinions? Is that
maybe? It's also your opinion, sir. I'm lumping you in with Cody on this, but yeah,
I hate Autop Stream. The channel.
There's a couple of you that agree with me on Joker 2.
Wrong ones.
I don't know about that. I think Rudy and Brian are very courageous fellas.
Courageous.
To go against the entire internet already. What can I say? So there should be content out eventually, but if you just can't get enough of me, I'm streaming like every day almost. So yeah, Sundays, go over to Rizalis's stream. There's a graphics. The Super Sunday wrap up. Sunday, 7 a.m. PST, 10 a.m. EST. It's YouTube at Rizales Comics. Rizalis Comics, if you will. But yeah, he goes through and recaps all the major stories of the week, what's coming up the next week, and even some fun games like Florida or Not,
Mm.
Florida Man or Not. Just so much production value, so fun. Charles is usually there. So if you can't get enough of Charles, he's there Sunday mornings. And then, of course, we have our fun show business Sunday nights. So that's the main things. Other than that, every Thursday, check out Thinkers. There's a graphic for that. It's people from like 3 more continents that get together and disagree about everything, but have it somewhat amicably. Go over every Thursday morning for That Darn Kidda's channel, YouTube at That Darn Kidda, for the Thinkers, where we're going to argue about everything. I think this particular Thursday, since it happens to be Halloween, we're doing a spooky think. So all of our ghost stories and stuff. So if you want to know about Charles's hauntings, come over to the Thinkers Thursday morning.
Yeah.
Although it is the 31st, maybe he will be busy.
I might
But you
be
never know.
slightly busy. Although
You never know.
if we're going at normal time and not like New World Kid at time, it might be before the events take place, because I think our first video is either 2 p.m. Eastern or what. But yeah, I'll be close.
So we'll make Charles go first if he shows up.
Jonah says, next time y'all talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street, have Gray sing Freddy's Dead's praises and let Cody's head explode. That would be interesting. Do you have a Freddy's Dead defense?
I mean, I liked the movies when I was a kid,
That's more
but
than enough.
I have not. I haven't rewatched in quite a long time. I think I should probably rewatch that one. Also, A New Nightmare. I never really. I don't know. I'm not sure if I gave it its proper due. It took quite a while for me to get into that one. I wanted to see more of the Dream Warriors.
So you're unfamiliar with the best ones, is what you're saying.
I've seen them, but it's been decades, so I need to see it again.
No,
But perhaps I have a hot take on one of those too.
keyword spooky. I'll be there. Yes, Dice is at the very least. Dice is around in the chat during the things. So there's that. Gray, the one with Alice Cooper, 4.25 out of 5, number 3 out of 31. That would be awesome. Fuck up the average just for that. So
I mean, Alice Cooper is amazing. Just saying. It elevates.
Sure. We do things slightly different than usual for the members streams. So if you're a member of the channel and there's something specific you'd like to see, put it in the comments or just at one of us. The idea of discussing horror, at least in the next week, seems relevant for a member's credit. Like clockwork.
He has been summoned.
Did someone say nice things about Freddy's Dead? Hashtag Spidey.
Not yet. I have failed to say bad things about it since I don't remember it. But
Cody, wait till
we'll
you hear what
see.
he has to say about Smile 2 and Joker Probably too.
Oh, I love them. Let me tell you, my 2 favorite musicals of the year. It was amazing.
Yeah. So something I was thinking we'll do for members is we got to get the music kids back together, Cody and Rudy, to join us, the 2 of us that are currently on screen, and I don't know, discuss maybe grunge or just modern rock and where it's gone, and I don't know, something, because that Metallica stream was fun, and
It was fun.
there are a handful of you that request music stuff, and it's like I wish there was thousands of you, but it's a nice idea. I was watching Joe Rogan and my ass started to itch. Something bad is happening somewhere.
His Freddy sense was tingling.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's where Freddy's Dead touched Cody. Just see. Now chat timing is what I was talking about earlier. Yeah. So, just see. Is your ass burning too, Rudy? Because that's interesting. We were discussing the possibility or the probability of doing another music discussion, although it's an idea at this point. The same person who has been adamant about the Metallica stream is like, Alice in Chains, grunge. And it's like, oh, okay. But it was fun. So I guess if it's fun, it's worth turning off all the movie kids. but I'm pretty sure that there's something to talk about that all of us can kind of shoot the shit on about. Oingo boingo.
So good.
Eeh.
Oh, come on, man. They were levels above. You wouldn't get it.
Jonah, yeah, Jonah would love to hear a grunge stream. Pacific Northwest kid and grunge my entire life. Yeah.
I mean,
ranking all 4 Creed albums. I don't
I know
hate
where I
that
would
idea.
rank them. Just saying.
The Stapathon. Oh yeah, we could.
Get your step on.
Didn't we have an idea of doing like bands who? I mean, so Linkin Park would be relevant if we did this topic, where bands that continued with a replacing of a deceased singer.
Ooh, man. So I just got a new one where so there's this proto-punk band. They were around, they were contemporaries of Iggy Pop.
Is it Anal Cunt?
It is not. No, Seth Putnam's not involved in this one. Man, I just watched a documentary on him the other day, though. But yeah, so they were around, like 60 years ago, rocking. And then sadly, one of the guitarists died. So they kind of broke up. And then the singer died. And then a bass player died. And then the drummer died. And now there's just a guitarist left. So they toured with a whole bunch of other like replacement musicians. And they were calling it, instead of MC5, it's MC50 because it was their 50th anniversary. Well, they just released an album like 2 days ago or something like that. And nobody is original. And there's like, I don't know. It's kind of the Ship of Theseus thing. Like, when is it no longer the band?
Like Leonard Skinner?
I guess so. Or kind of like the whole Pantera thing where it's like Phil's the only dude in there now. Is that really Pantera? I love the other guys that are in it, but is it Pantera?
Oh. Yeah, it's what, just Phil now, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, you got
And
Zach
Phil wasn't
Wild
the
on
original.
guitar, and yeah, true. He was kind of the replacement one. He was brought in after the glam rock.
So I think this topic is certainly interesting to discuss. I don't know where
I'm no expert, but yeah. So the last I saw, Rex was out of it, though. I could be wrong. If Rex is still in it, then cool. They're at 50%.
is that. Oh, right. It is 50 because they were a 4-piece.
Because then you just had the Abbott brothers, but they're legendary, hard to replace. I'd still love the guys who were doing it, and that was kind of the thing when MC50 came by. It was one of the dudes from goddammit, Cornell's band. No, I'm forgetting. But there's a bunch of like really awesome dudes playing in this, but it just is it that same band if you've got a whole bunch of ringers in there. I don't know.
All right, so Creedathon, grunge, and Rudy's singing some sort of a song in there, and I do not have it. I don't. It sounds familiar. I just don't know what it is. I'm trying to hum a tune that I don't have in my head. Because when we share,
Perhaps the next lines are going to be "With Arms Wide Open." I don't know.
oh, is that what it is?
I have no idea. Oh, My Sacrifice. Okay.
Oh, I'm free. I'm careless. Yeah. Okay. It's the way the sentence is put together that. Yeah, I'm lying at this point. My sacrifice. Yes, my balls have lice. Yep.
We're just slow.
Yeah, so there's a couple. If you're into the music stuff, and go back and watch the Metallica stream. That was quite fun. We talked about the history of Metallica for a couple hours. We'll see if not anytime before Halloween, obviously, but maybe we'll get the band back together and discuss music shit. Comment down below. Let us know what you'd like to see discussed. I think the deceased band members, while the band is still on, again, because Linkin Park is sort of relevant right now that they're going on, and getting reviews, however you feel about it, that's grays to disagree with, but thanks everyone, and thanks Cody and Rudy for jumping in after the Freddy's Dead talk. We'll probably see you in a couple of hours. Say goodbye, Gray.